Day one arguably gave us the best start to an LPL Brawl Stars APAC tour we've had in 3 stages, Teddy. It set us up for a rather interesting home stretch here on day 2. And well, look, we can't start things without thanking Supercell for teaming up with LPL to bring us competitions like this here in Asia Pacific. It is a region that's desperately needed competitions like this, and seeing them bring not just tournaments but prize pools to back it up. $19,500 over 3 stages, $18,000 for the pro division here, and then of course $1,500 for the open. Teddy, coming into it, seeing what we've seen so far, there is a team who has only played a single match, and if they somehow win their next, will find themselves in the money.
Yeah, it's a crazy storyline, and there's other storylines unfolding as well, with potentially some grudge stories happening in the next few rounds. So I'm excited for today. I think it's going to be an awesome set of matches here.
Yeah, now it's not just the little echo chamber that we're starting here on day 2. No, we played through the qualifiers. There's been so much more that has gone into stage 3 of this Asia Pacific tour. We started with our 4 regions playing through the open qualifiers in their best of 5 single elimination bracket. We then take the 2 best teams from each of those qualifiers and have injected them here into the finals. Teddy, we started with 8. We have now whittled it down to 4 going into the second day of competition. We will be heading from the best of 3 double elim format into the best of 5 format to round things out, but there are only 3 spots in terms of prizing, 4 teams, and unfortunately someone is going to have to miss out today. Given how much money is up for grabs, that's a pretty impressive, pretty significant thing. $3,000 for first, half of that $6,000 prize pool, and the drop off then gets pretty significant from there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, right now we already know that CR and 3R are in the money. Deciding factor is going to be who is going to at least secure that top 3 spot between Legion gamers and then of course Coco Loco. So a big match there happening for $1,200 literally on the prize, as a prize.
And reflecting back on day 1, like I said, we started with 8 teams, couple of unfortunate forfeits. Unfortunate for some, hugely beneficial for others. Legion gamers played their first match against tournament favourites Crazy Raccoon. Then Team 1 forfeited against them, Team Eclipse forfeited against them, and they found themselves now in the top 4. But you look at the rest of this bracket, Coco Loco being knocked down by 3R. Not necessarily an upset, but maybe not the result that I think they expected. And Motivated, who did look solid, taking a set off of Crazy Raccoon, knocked out by Coco Loco in that lower bracket as well, Ted. It's been an interesting run so far.
Yeah, I think Coco Loco are quite happy there too, because they would have faced most likely Team Eclipse that were pretty heavy favorites in their match against Legion gamers, but they forfeited. So no Surgeon show at all for the remainder of this second day, which is a pretty crazy storyline as well.
Yeah, but unfortunate, but it's time to jump into the lower bracket. It's time to lock in our top 3 here, Teddy. One team will progress into that lower bracket final. The other will unfortunately be out of the tournament. And of course, up first, it's Legion gamers coming into it, having played only a single match. They've had the boon of the bracket, so to speak. Melody, Too Easy, OG Sinner coming into it. I mean, we talked about how their first match of the tournament was, yesterday. First match of yesterday was the toughest that they would likely face. They now start off day 2 taking on Coco Loco, and the stakes are just that much higher, Teddy. It's a trial by fire, nonetheless.
It's kind of what they got going for them, right? The fact that the only team that they've lost to and played was the best team. Coco Loco, they've had a pretty different journey throughout both the upper and lower bracket. Not an easy one. We are standing in their way, but at the end of the day, they are still definitely second or third best team here when it comes to the remainder teams of the LPL. So they have a really good shot at winning this match.
Yeah, let's have a look where we're going to be duking it out, though, to start off the day. And we had a couple of different map pools yesterday. We see the expanded map pool coming through now. We start things off out in the open for Knockout, Canal Grand for the bounty. We then go back to 3 staples, which we've seen already. Pinball Dreams, Brawl Ball, Double Swoosh, Gem Grab, and then rounding things out in the open business Hot Zone. Now, Teddy, it's not Snake Prairie. We're not there yet, but we've seen some interesting innovations on these maps already. And to kick this series off, Coco Loco will have first pick on our opening map.
All right, well, first pick, always the same name of the game, really. You look at the strongest brawlers, or brawlers that don't really have too many weaknesses, so that, it's not too hard to cover that weaknesses later on in that draft. Their opponents can't exploit it quite as much. Interesting approach so far. I mean, we didn't see a bit of a Brock buff, so that extra little bit of damage might go a long way. Plus, the wall break on this map is really important because it gives you that easier access to the mid. Otherwise, you're forced to go far on the right or the top left, or use a jump pass, which makes you quite vulnerable. You can just break the walls with a free gadget. I mean, that's definitely a good idea, but it's already Mo coming up, as well as a Mortis to line up the comp for Coco Loco. They're going in full aggro.
New hypercharge under the belt for Mortis as well, so double damage, extra healing. I say double damage, technically double damage because now it returns to you, but Mo, we've seen different approaches from a couple of teams of rather impressive stuff on the whole, if I'm being honest, but OG Sinner coming in. I mean, we saw the Brock yesterday out of them, but it just doesn't feel like the changes that, you know, that he received are enough to still justify him in the meta at the moment. It feels like he's just, yeah, cool, you've got wall break, but I'd argue there are other brawlers out there that fit into that role just as well and probably fit a comp a bit better as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a valid point. I think that, like, the only merit it really has here is that wall break. It's not a terrible brawler, it's just a bit easy to exploit, and I think that, like, brawlers like Mortis and Mo are exactly that, right? Like, they're gonna play around the fact that at a medium to close range, it's hard for Brock to hit those shots. The squishy as well. We'll see here if Legion Gamers can make any plays, as Jay and Hiroshi took the jump pad early on. Mortis already goes in, and Response finds the first kill, but it's gonna be hard for him to get traded. Never mind, they find all the kills here. Melody falls as well, and it's gonna be Coco Loco as the first round.
Yeah, I think that's exactly why they drafted the Mortis. They know that they can gap close, there's big damage output as well, and just backing it up with the duo of Mo and obviously, okay. This is not some, you know, big brain draft that we're seeing out of Coco Loco. It's that they've picked brawlers that can do a lot of damage in quick succession and make this a quick series.
Yeah, Jesse is also a bit of an odd pick here. Doesn't really make the most sense. You really only see Jesse ever in control modes. So looking at like a few gem grab maps such as Double Swoosh, you'll see it on like dueling beetles and some hot zone maps, and you'll see it in heists to deal damage to the safe. But like this is a very interesting territory for Jesse to wander in.
Okay, so Mortis doing what Mortis does, although not successfully. Usually, at least in the games that I've played, Mortis has already wiped off 2/3 of the map, but no, this time not quite as lucky. Hiroshi and X9J will bring it back, trading things out. Mortis for a Brock, not the end of the world, but I think at this stage, given that Hiroshi is pushing deep on the Mo and just cleaning things up the way that he is, yeah, it's not like they were that pressed after losing out on Response.
Yeah, I don't think they needed Response at this point. I mean, he's just there to make the rounds quicker, you know, if possible. But I don't think he's required like win condition or anything like it. So far, they got the opening kill, and Response is gonna clean house. Quick game, quick set here for Coco Loco. Pretty much what we were expecting, to be honest.
Yeah, look, not trying to be mean, but when you progress through the bracket off of the back of 2 forfeits, the expectations aren't super high. They're trying. If nothing else, they are trying to give it a crack. They got a couple of kills against a team like Coco Loco. It's a learning opportunity. They can go back and decide whether or not that, you know, it's enough to motivate them to come back next time around. But Coco Loco clearly looking past Legion Gamers at the moment. They're looking towards the lower bracket finals, and from there obviously to the grand finals. Canal Grand, another new map mode combination that we're seeing here in the APAC Tour in the best of 5 format. Teddy, I mean, look, I could see an argument being made for the Brock again, but not a very strong argument.
Yeah, it was an interesting pick. Let's say it that way. I don't really think it was the greatest of all ideas. It also didn't really synergize with the rest of the comp either. Like, I would get it if you wanted to go, you know, with a Piper as well and some like proper range, and you just want that access to the mid. But they didn't even open the mid, did they? Like, I don't really get the point of it. I think he was playing the jump. It could have been a reaction towards that Mortis, to be fair, that they initially had the plan of playing the wall break, but they decided, you know, Mortis is going to be very aggro, being able to jump away, deal that extra little bit of damage up close. could help out. It didn't, though, in all honesty. So I don't really know. I think the game plan was just kind of wrong. As soon as we saw that Brock and the Jesse, like, I was kind of confused by the direction of that draft.
Yeah, Mortis and Mo, obviously enough respect being paid here by Legion Gamers that they immediately banned it out. Daryl follows it up, and I mean, to be fair, we have seen how impressive Daryl can be. Given, I mean, it's not a massive change in the grand scheme of things. Just having that second super allows him to do a lot more and not be punished for it, being able to dive in and dive out again. All of a sudden, he's just so much more threatening.
Yeah, I like the comp from Legion Gamers so far. I think Larry Laurie, very relevant to this map. Tester, very solid as well. Still, bros like Jackie are a little bit scary to leave open on this map because they are just incredibly threatening, especially early game. Bang is definitely a bit of a wild pick, but I think Coco Loco are just kind of playing with their food at this point.
Limit testing. Obviously, they're looking even beyond the APAC tour and towards the next pro season of BSC, and maybe they've got an idea that Fang is going to be, meta. I doubt it, honestly. As much as I do play a bit of Fang, I don't think he's quite got what it takes to hang with the big dogs. Squeak coming in. I mean, look, again, saw some love getting that new hypercharge, but look. You did like the comp initially out of Legion Gamers. Do you like it now that it's rounded out, Teddy?
I don't mind it per se. I'm too, like, what worries me really is not necessarily the brawlers here. It's just like the people behind them, I guess. Just, they didn't really seem like they had the deepest understanding of the game in that opening set. Obviously against CR, it was really hard to judge because, like, it was CR they were facing. So, like, CR makes every team look bad in a way. But I wasn't really convinced by that first set. So I prefer the draft much more here, and I'm cheering for them to show us some signs of greatness. But so far, what makes me a bit scared is the execution.
Yeah, I mean, 9 times out of 10, that's really the undoing of strategies like this. And I mean, Angelo coming out as well to start things off for Coco Loco, that long-range charge threat that he does bring. Not to mention being able to just clear the water hazards. Makes it just that much more comfortable when you're contesting. Blue Star picked up very early on from Coco Loco. Massive shot there onto Melody. You can see Legion Gamers, it's not even a case of they're scared. They have just been manhandled back towards their own half of the map.
Yeah, the Angelo is going absolutely crazy. So is the Fang. It's going to be a death here for the Fang. A bit of a wasted super as well. Not entirely sure if that was worth it. Respawn's going in very aggressive as well. Should be falling as well, but not before still causing quite a bit of havoc. And for now, it's a 6-star lead in favor of Coco Loco. Sure, not the biggest lead, but when you look at the map control, I mean, it's definitely like 100% in their favor.
Oh, absolutely. They I'm not even sure if I see a way for this to be able, unless you get some massive kills. I don't think that's happening though, unfortunately. One more and that should be it. X9J around the corner is just going to be able to connect onto OG Sitter. 20-8, and I mean, I agree with you. It didn't really feel like the Fang did a whole lot other than threaten with his presence. He was there bored just to zone as a potential threat rather than an actual one. So look, I think it's Coco Loco toying with their food just a little bit here, not wanting to give away too much when they go into the matches that I would argue they probably consider it a little bit more important.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, if you look at the other side of the bracket, like 3R and CR are some of the best teams in the region, so that is definitely where like their minds are going to be at. I think they can approach this one safely here, just not take any major risks, and either way they have a nice buffer as well, being a setup and almost a second now. So room for mistakes is not really something that Legion of Gamers has at this point. 3-star lead in favor of Coco Loco, and they keep expanding that. Confident that they're in a good position to do so.
X9J is almost single-handedly controlled this left mid side of the map. He's done a pretty solid job. The fact that he's locking down almost 40% of this map on that left-hand side is rather impressive, and it just allows Hiroshi on that Angelo to control mid, play off a response who's looking for the hook to get in and start going to work with that super if he can. There you go, jump on in, X9J for 2. In fact, I mean, doubling up on the Larry Laurie, getting both of them, you should almost count for double the stars, honestly, given that it's all part of one character. But there you go, Hiroshi grabs the final kill, bags another 20-star victory there on the bounty. And, I mean, look, Canalgrad was here, if only for the blink of an eye. Yeah, Coco Loco looking to accelerate this and book themselves a top 3 spot.
Yeah, things looking very good here ahead for Coco Loco so far. Pretty near like flawless performance. Legion Gamers, what I do like about them is like in the first set and even here, like we've seen some smiles and some laughing and some chuckling, and I think they know, you know, that they are big underdogs here, that they are massively like, I don't say unprepared as in like they didn't put in the time and the effort, just unprepared as in they haven't spent the years of experience that Coco Loco has. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. It's just outmatched at the end of the day. And look, to be fair, in this situation, when you are getting as manhandled as you are against a team like Coco, like all you can really do is laugh. If you take yourself too seriously in these situations, you're probably not going to be having that much fun. So you might as well enjoy it while you can.
Yes, exactly that. I think the same thing. Obviously, you still want to like try your hardest and try your best and try to make that like a learning experience. I think that's the most important thing to like take away from this. But you also need to make sure you're not like getting upset at your teammates or blaming anyone for anything. Like your every lane here is outmatched. You know, there's not like a weak link or weak area where it's like, oh yeah, if they changed like this slight little detail, things would be different. Everything right now is kind of problematic. The drafts, especially in the first set, were just like, it was just a pretty terrible draft. And then the execution, both in the first and second set, was just like not on point on every single lane. But again, it's a learning process, right? It's a great experience for them to play against a top team like Coco Loco, see what it's like, see what they're missing, and hopefully work on that in the future. And who knows, maybe make some live adjustments here in set number 3.
Yeah, I mean, opportunities like this are rare. Only those odd occasions where you get really unlucky, you know, stacking into a ranked queue of a team like Coco Loco, maybe playing on Smurfs. But whatever the case may be, Daryl not banned out. He's going to be picked up here by Legion Gamers. Melody for X9J. So a little bit of the much the same. Both have the opportunity for aggressive repositioning. You can look to play a little bit forward onto the ball if you need to. Melody leaning back into the Jackie, which is an interesting pick. Oh, sorry, Jesse, not Jackie. Redheads. Jesse coming through. Yeah, look, okay, Serge, yeah. So Coco Loco are looking to just, much in the same way as they did the first 2 sets, they're looking to do it the same here. Okay, all right.
I mean, they're here to have some fun and still try to, you know, have some seriousness, especially with like that Melody and that Surge pick, but that Primo is just here for the matchup against the Daryl. It's going to be a messy one. We'll see a Dynamac last pick here for Legion Gamers. Not necessarily a bad shout, considering the only wall break is the Primo Super. So I don't hate it. You do want to be careful still of like a jump coming through, whether from the Primo or the Surge or a dash from the Melody. Those are a little bit hard to keep track of. But besides that, like it's not like you're going to be heavily contested on those lanes. It does rely like a little bit on how much your teammates are going to feed like, you know, a Daryl Super or a Melody Super. Because once they get those, probably the first destination is going to be towards that Dynamite.
Yeah, look, just the sheer amount of aggressive repositioning capabilities out of Coco Loco. You might think you're safe, and then all of a sudden you've got 3 different brawlers dashing towards you on a brawler that is a little bit limited in the grand scheme of things when it comes to mobility. Could be a bit scary, so I'll have to see. Response, getting up nice and close on that Legion Gamers side of the map. The stun comes out, and it will be too easy. Claiming first blood, Daryl dives on in onto Hiroshi. He's in a bit of trouble. Ball actually moving in a favourable direction for Legion Gamers, who double down and get X9J. In fact, they've wiped the entirety of Coco Loco here, Teddy.
Yeah, Coco Loco maybe a little bit over-aggressive so far. Of course, response without a super, it's going to be a little bit tougher. Once he gets one, he can start chaining it up, right? Because if he jumps on something, he will start reloading his next super. That's going to go a long way, but a little bit of trouble here around the base of Legion Gamers. It's the only Melody left alive after that respawn. Does manage to find 2 kills, but can't quite stop response. Coco Loco was the opening goal, and now 1 leg into that match point area.
Oh, Melody just landed on there by response, forced it under uncomfortable position. X9J sends the shot over to Response, and they will slam it home to take the first round of this set. And yeah, look, Coco Loco having their fun, just making sure that they get the job done though.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, they don't want to let anything slip either. So far, yeah, they're playing with their food, but they're still very much the ones eating the food out of those two teams. Legion Gamers here on the verge of defeat. Coco Loco almost in the money here. $1,200 on the line. Some Melody dashes coming in aggressively. Jay finds one. Melody does get the trade. A roll from Sinner. Does manage to find a kill, actually. Only Response left alive, and very quickly this push has actually deflated a bit.
Yeah, I think that was always sort of how it was going to be at the end. Like, yeah, momentum shift, but it's always going to bounce straight back into that Coco Loco wall. Daryl looking to clear things up, but yeah, Hiroshi slams it on home. First goal of what could be the final map played here for Legion Gamers. And yeah, Response going to pop the wall, passes to himself, and sends it home. A 3-0 sweep here to book a top 3 berth for Coco Loco, but top 4 is nothing to sneeze at from Legion Gamers.
Definitely so. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think people will remember the way they got to this point. You know, I'm just hoping that Legion Gamers don't start putting in on their Twitter that they like got top 4 placement at LPL. That would feel like a little bit wrong, you know. But they fought, I think, the hardest here in Brawl Ball. So that was, you know, their best performance yet. And unfortunately, it was a bit of a weird and short journey for them, especially like on the stage. But at the end of the day, I think that like in those situations, you just got to make it a learning process, you know, try to figure out what went right, what went wrong, what you can work on for next time. And they seem to have like the right mentality for it. They played serious all the way until the end. And they also had some fun with it too, you know, we saw some smiles, some chuckles, and I think that's important for the game as well.
I mean, much like Daryl, you sort of got to roll with the punches, because as soon as you start trying to brute force things in a situation where things clearly aren't going your way, it's going to become that much more jarring. But there you go, Teddy. We've got our top 3. We are in the money from here on out. It's just a matter of figuring out who ends up with the top dosh and who bows out with only $1,200. We will have to jump back up to the upper bracket, though, to figure that out. See who heads down to the lower bracket final. Crazy Raccoon take it on 3R Gaming. Crazy Raccoon have looked as solid as they have ever. But 3R Gaming, a team that has been on the rise for a while now. So they're looking like they could potentially crack top 2.
This is their chance. Of course, as you mentioned, this match guarantees top 2. Crazy Raccoon, Tensai, Tempo, Moya, some of the best players in the world champions, all of them. Tensai, I believe, is the only one here that's world champion twice. So an incredible roster with an incredible history behind it as well, and definitely the top dogs of this region.
Yeah, I mean, not on top of that, you've got Worlds just around the corner, Crazy Raccoon and Tensai. Tensai will be looking for his 3rd title, I would imagine. You're probably not going in hoping for anything less, but 3R Gaming, we did say, yeah, it's a slow burn team. Mameshi coming in, picking up Yume and Sakura, looking to sort of build this new next-gen, I suppose, Japanese roster. Jumping into it, though, the map veto on your screens. Hard Rock Mine with the gem grab, Hot Zone on Dueling Beetles, Bell's Rock Knockout, Shooting Star Bounty, and Center Stage Brawl Ball to round things out. Those extended map pools, Teddy. I mean, Hard Rock Mine coming into it, Dueling Beetles, some pretty classic maps given the APAC tour and the last couple of stages. So, I mean, look, we've had some stellar games already this tournament. Crazy Raccoon, 3R Gaming in a best of 5. I'm excited.
Me too. I mean, this is one of the headlines of the tournament. 2 big teams that haven't faced each other in a minute as well, because, you know, for everyone that isn't like as close to the Brawl Stars competitive scene, the monthly finals have ended like a few months ago. 3R did not qualify for LCQ, so we didn't see them play there. And then CR, they qualified directly to Worlds, so they also didn't play at LCQ. So it's been a few months really since we've seen those 2 teams face each other, like, you know, on a big stage. So I'm excited to see how this one is going to work out. I think that CR, they still come in as like pretty heavy favorites because it is Crazy Raccoon after all. But 3R, they've definitely given them a run for their money before.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, going into the gem grab to start things off, Hard Rock Mine. Look, I could see 3R Gaming, if they have a comfortable draft, forcing this past a three mapper best of 5, but they've got the skills, the mechanics to make it happen here. Seeing the bans to start things off: Draco, Stu, Mo, Anita, Gus, and Clancy coming out. So once again, we have seen Clancy targeted out here. So obviously there is at least some concern in terms of his viability.
Definitely so. Just as a reminder as well, 3R Gaming, they got second place in the first season of LPL, third place in the second season. So all they really need now is a first place. That's all that's been kind of like missing in their achievement list. We'll see the great first pick. Not necessarily very enthusiastic about that. A bit of a confusing pick for me here. Not a brawler that you really see much on Hard Rock Mine, especially not as a first pick. Yeah, I don't really get it. I mean, I'm definitely hoping there's like some cheese behind it that I, am not aware of. But this is definitely beyond the realm of normal here in Brawl Stars.
I mean, it's the APEC, right? At the end of the day, I think being able to play around that super aggressive reposition around these, like some of those indestructible walls, gives you a little bit more flexibility, I think. Surge coming out from Tumpo for Crazy Raccoon in response. RT, which we have seen plenty of here in Stage 3, and a huge damage output brawler as well that has been used to pretty solid effect. I think that is potentially, in response, they're anticipating some aggression out of 3R Gaming, and they want the ability to deal with that.
I like the RT. It seems like it is becoming quickly a staple of this region as well. Gil going to be brought on, as well as the Daryl. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Much more than the Gray, to be completely honest. Still feels like the weirdest pick here out of all of them, especially when you do have plenty of other good mid options available. I mean, Meg is still very much decent. 8-bit, Gene, all options here that I would much have preferred. Even go the sharpshooter route would have been an option. I guess Gray has the ability to kind of escape. Picking the thrower into it is interesting. However, since the Gray is probably going to be around mid and carrying gems, he's not really going to be committed to dashing on the throw and trying to get the kill, because it's just a little bit too risky.
Look, maybe flexibility about enabling Daryl and then stacking things there. So I can see potentially the inklings of what they're trying to do, but until we get into the server and actually see the game play out, it's not going to be something that will reveal itself. But look, you look at it, Daryl allows for that aggression. You've got Gale, who can, sort of counter the response from Crazy Raccoon as well. So I think it's got flexibility, if nothing else.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird pick to me. Again, maybe there is something I don't know about this strat that we'll find out about soon enough here. Tensai pretty safely getting the first couple gems. Takes a bit of damage. Will feed towards that first TP. A shot being connected there onto Moya as well, but a Gray. But no big trouble just yet here. For Crazy Raccoon, they managed to get the better start, and was a 3-gem advantage. That also means that if they just go head-to-head, pick up one gem at a time.
This is exactly what I was talking about. It's going to be the Daryl delivery system, I think. Here, Super is up, so he's going to have the double dash. He's going to jump straight into the thick of Crazy Raccoon and just look to wreak havoc. If they can, obviously pull off the strategy, but no, it's all a bit of a bait and switch. You can see suddenly Saka is working his way to the left-hand side of the field. The distraction is there. They send in Umate with the Super as well, and it's all come together. The plan, unfortunately, not perfect for 3R Gaming. It's going to be a bit of a mishmash. A 2-for-1 trade that ultimately goes the way of Crazy Raccoon. Now, Shintabo on the hunt will find Mameshi, has the Hyper up as well, and will get out of danger. I could see what they were trying to do. Unfortunately, Teddy, it was a bit telegraphed, honestly.
Yeah, this is the thing. I could imagine this being the plan. I just couldn't really imagine it working. You know what I mean? It seems a bit naive, maybe. I mean, I like the idea of going for some cheese and trying to find a way to gain, I don't want to say an unfair advantage, but you know what I mean. Just find an advantage was a crazy strategy. However, it hasn't really resulted in much success just yet. Mameshi gonna be forced to TP away. Does get a nice flank onto Tensai. Tensai in a bit of an awkward position, especially with the Daryl heading towards him. Shitempo gonna be forced to pick up the gems, but look at that. I mean, It's not the Daryl delivery system, it's a gem delivery system straight into their spawn.
Yeah, it's great and all until Crazy Raccoon respawn. So, yeah, every great plan has one fundamental flaw. That Mameshi, though, look, with Sakura's dive deep, they've got the gem control back, and if IC can duck out of danger, at least could keep it competitive for the most part, but gems being picked up by Crazy Raccoon, they're going to jump themselves back, so unless we suddenly see 6 gems go the way of 3R Gaming, I think it's less than likely now, and look, that was a breath, if nothing else, that could have opened things up for them at the dive on in. All 3 players looking for openings, but it's not to be. Crazy Raccoon will still take the first round of the set. But again, yeah, you could see what the game plan was. It was just an incredibly high risk, high reward game plan.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it didn't work in this first game. I think they kind of lose the element of surprise now as well. So this is something they're going to have to, like, find a way to deal with, because obviously Crazy Raccoon, they know what they want to do now, and they're going to be ready for it. Not that it even like really worked in the first place. So a good attempt here, some good tags against from Mameshi, working towards that first TP, but the start is again going to be favorable to Crazy Raccoon.
Mameshi opens things with the first blood on Tomoe. I think if they are going to make it work, yeah, don't telegraph the teleport as early as you are. The Grey Super needs to be sort of a spur of the moment almost. You drop it as Daryl's ready to you know, has that super charged up. Yume finished off, and it's just every single life in this round so far is falling by the wayside. 3R Gaming are just bleeding life after life after life, trying to make something stick, and unfortunately teleport does go in, but no super there for Daryl means that he's not going to be able to output that damage. Mameshi jumps on in, takes some big damage, 600 HP in a dream. Unfortunately, the dream is very, very quickly becoming a nightmare. Yume looking in for the flank, has the super up and available. No hyper charge just yet. Looking for it, super does go out, connects on to Tensai and the Lori, whichever one it is, the super out there, but that's not the connection that you're looking for. Yume's in trouble. Tampo almost single-handedly zoning out the entire remainder of 3R Gaming. IC jumps on in to try and contribute, but the gems fall into the hands of Crazy Raccoon. To every single step forward taken by 3R Gaming, they're forced 2 back.
Yeah, amidst all the chaos, they did manage to find a little bit of space. Daryl is going to fall on the right-hand side now, but if you look at the gem situation, it is slowly evening out. Now, 3R Gaming don't have much room for mistakes. It's 9 gems here for CR, so they need some mid-control back. Otherwise, the countdown is going to be starting. Tempo scared to overextend here. Not quite going to go for it, but the next gem is going to spawn on their side. Will be picked up now, and a countdown is going to be initiated by CR. 3R need a way to interrupt it, and the only way is going to be a kill on either Tempo or Tensai.
Yeah, I mean, Daryl just not having the range to teleport, again, is a great idea in theory, but if you're not going to be able to output the damage off the back of it, it's largely wasted in terms of the draft. So I think against the lesser team, that would have been a phenomenal draft for 3R Gaming, but against a team like Crazy Raccoon, I think as soon as they saw the Grey and the Daryl coming out, they knew what the game plan was for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I think just after that Grey pick, which was just such a weird one in the first place, they immediately went Surge and RT, like 2 great tank counters, which kind of indicates that they, like, if they didn't have a clear idea of what was coming, they had some, you know, they had some guesses. And they nailed it. I mean, they were completely ready for that Daryl. Daryl got very little value. The Gale was basically just there to, like, make sure that Daryl actually doesn't get shut down too heavily, but it still wasn't enough. It still wasn't enough. So I think back to the drawing board here. I don't mind the mindset, though, from 3R. You know, even though this draft did not stick, I think it is a good shout to go for some risks, because they know that, like, on an even draft, they're not the favorites. You know, they're quite likely to lose. Might as well try to, like, you know, take some risks, make things a bit more volatile, and hopefully find a comp that actually works out and gives them kind of like a free little set here and there.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's good to see that they're innovating coming into this and not just sort of playing what they've been playing for the longest time and then just losing outright to you know, Crazy Raccoon. They showed a bit of innovation. again, I stand by what I said. If it was in any other team, I think that probably would have seen a little bit more success, but Crazy Raccoon identify what's going on. Going into map 2, Crazy Raccoon will have the first pick in the draft, which does allow a bit of counterplay over towards 3R. Maybe they can string together a draft here, play maybe a little bit more reactionary in terms of the overall setup, but yeah, look, cheese works once, but if you continue to lean into cheese drafts, your opponents more often than not will quickly catch on.
Yeah, this is a bit more of a normal map to see Gray. You see Gray Jackie, Gray Rosa, that kind of stuff. It's pulling out of the meta a little bit because of a lot of very strong defensive anti-tank brawlers, namely Gale. He's going to be banned out here, but as an example, and we're going to see his 2 first pick, so very CR-like. 2, not very much a meta brawler right now, but it is still decent, and especially like since it's a very high skill ceiling brawler, if you're very good with it, you can still be an absolute threat. You can definitely carry with it too, so I don't mind it. I think it's quite decent with the speed booster zone as well. That definitely helps out the team too, especially if you can just place it behind your unbreakable walls and get that free extra little bit of value for your team. And yes, it will get destroyed quickly if there's a thrower, but if there's a thrower, you just go for the wall break and open up some walls. So it's kind of like win-win to that extent.
Yeah, I mean, looking at what you could play, do you play for a little bit of kite, the long range threat? Do you play for just outright damage on the zone? 3R Gaming bring the RT, which, I mean, for the most part, from what I can remember, this stage has, I don't think it has lost a map so far, so it is pretty oppressive in terms of what it's being brought to do, and I think that is a lot of counterplay, just trying to read into maybe some aggression from Crazy Raccoon. I think you almost do have to go for a throw or something like that to sort of play backline and provide that extra coverage, that extra damage, but we do see the Meg coming out. So 3R Gaming, reasonably beefy frontline. You're probably looking for something that has a bit of range, maybe a bit of support, maybe a bit of lockdown to round things out. And Crazy Raccoon, yeah, okay, the Lola, the Stew, a lot of high damage output so far in this draft, Teddy.
Yeah, they're just picking brawlers that we haven't seen yet in the LPL this season. I don't remember seeing any Stew. Maybe we saw it once. We definitely did not see any Lola. And we did see some Gus, but not all that much either. So a bit of an interesting comp on their end. I think that 3R have a comp that is a bit more typical, I would say. I think you were spot on with the idea of throwers. The only thing is they banned Barley. So it was, I think, CR that banned Barley and 3R banned Larry Laurie, which are kind of like the 2 only real options here. Like you could go Tick, you could go Grom, you could go, Sprout, but those brawlers all are much weaker as a thrower. Barry, maybe, something they could have considered. But for the most part, I think they were a bit limited when it comes to throwers, so they had to find some other directions to go towards. And I don't mind the Coco. I mean, the sustain is nice.
Yeah, that was the other direction. Support, look for something a little bit more sustainy. The new hypercharge means that you don't have to worry about wastage when it comes to the super. But Tensai on the Stew is diving on deep in towards the zone, looking to contest it as aggressively as possible. IC falls, but so does Shitatampo. So it's answered back in a 1-for-1. Mameshi rather taking some big damage on this Poco. Has to get to safety. Yume out of the mech. Will be forced into the danger zone, and they're both cleaned up on the back of it. Crazy Raccoon push onto the zone. We'll start taking that progress with some urgency.
Tensai has been doing great so far, and the setup is pretty much just complete now with the Ego placed down as well. Gonna help get that extra bit of damage. Gets destroyed. Moya as a spare. I see when his legs get low as to get back into one piece. Yume about to drop out of mech. TRT low HP as well. Doesn't have that extra safety line of having a mech available to drop out of in the first place, and that's going to be a team wipe, I believe. The tempo can't quite get it just yet. We'll get it now. Closer game percentage-wise, but CR still in the driver's seat for the most part.
Yeah, unfortunately the staggered respawn from 3R Gaming is really working against them. They're not coming up as a three-man unit to be able to play off of each other. IC hits the super as Mameshi looking to try and provide some gap for the team. Goes down as Yume walks on in and finishes off Tensai. So they've got a bit of that beefy front line now. They've got themselves the lead here, Teddy. this frontline duo has given some breathing room with Umeshi coming back in. If we can see a Coco super come up, maybe even that hypercharge keeps them that little bit healthier the remaining few moments of this game. Umeshi does fall to the tempo looking for a big opening, but there you go. The beefy front line with the support Poco in the back is enough to get 3R Gaming one of the rounds in this set.
Bad timing here for CR. They got team wiped, and then they had zero util to work with. They had no ego. They had no supers, so they were kind of just like sitting ducks there. And I think that when they don't have all that util available to them, it is very hard for them to either hold or take back that position. So I think they need to be maybe a little bit more careful not to die too much, because once that ego is gone, that Lola is dealing like 30% less damage than it should be dealing.
Yeah, I mean, this beefy front line is great and all, but as soon as you separate and allow for the isolation play to come out of Crazy Raccoon, as soon as they can single out one particular target, it becomes very, very hard to contest this hot zone. That's exactly what's happened once again. You need to be playing as a 3-stack. You need to have that Poco in the back line, just pumping out the heals for Yume and IC, but they've split the difference once again. Yume popped out of the mech, going to be finished off quite cleanly. I see there finally Umeshi in for support, but the damage output, yeah, it's the staggered walk back towards the zone. 3R Gaming, despite having 30% of this zone at the moment, are being so heavily punished. I think they're just going to get cycled out of this round.
Yeah, right now CR in a great position. There's a spare ego as well. That's what I was talking about, right? The win condition for 3R is to get rid of that ego, but then there's a spare as well, making things extra complicated. Umeshi gonna get shut down here as well. 2-piece here for CR, and this game is a complete night and day difference. Much more confident, much more comfortable, and should be able to quite straightforwardly lock in that game here, as IC does get some good damage. The tempo doesn't have a shield. Does he unlock it with the next shot? He doesn't quite. Inside manages to get Yume out of mech, and suddenly there's not enough damage to stop him from getting into that zone and locking in that game.
Yeah, I mean, the draft on paper, so you've got 3R Gaming who've drafted the Hulk, and then Crazy Raccoon who have drafted the Hulk Buster. They've got high damage output, they just meld through these tanks, and unfortunately without Umeshi having a super or hypercharge up and available, means that 3R Gaming really can't afford to be taking the sustained fights because they just get absolutely shredded.
That's the thing though, they don't have that high damage output either. And again, I think that the win condition here for 3R is to stop Moya from having so many egos, which is hard when, for the most part, the ranged advantage is going to be in favor of Moya. But that's pretty much what locked them that first game. Can they do it again? Let's see, as IC has super available, is going to get back to his legs, and that gets him like quite healthy as well. The ego taken care of, and so far 3R was a pretty significant lead.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not individual damage that is what is securing these openings for Crazy Raccoon. It's the team damage. So it's the fact that they can stack all the damage onto one of these brawlers and absolutely wipe it off the face of the planet. So that's the real threat of this Crazy Raccoon lineup. While individually on paper they may not look like the most threatening, brawlers to bring to the table, when they're stacked on top of each other, when they're isolating out targets, and you can see that is exactly how Crazy Raccoon are playing. They are switching targets as a 3-man unit. They're not doing it, oh, okay, look, someone stepped up. No, the call is made, they switch to the target, they melt it down and take that control back. And yeah, look, 3R Gaming, much more comfortable. They've got up in the face, they had some of those supers ready to go, and it meant it was a little bit harder for Crazy Raccoon to threaten here, but look, they've cleared them out. They've got onto the zone. They start ticking up that progress. Unfortunately, I think at this stage, Teddy, the damage has largely been done.
It really has been. I mean, all they need is to step into that zone. That means a hypercharge for Umeshi, or the Meg just committing should be enough to lock that one in. There you have it. IC got into the zone, split its legs up. Too much health, too much shield here for Crazy Raccoon to stop them. And honestly, a bit of a mistake, I think, in the draft here. Just not enough damage output, I think, on the side of CR. Like, they were like, it was narrowly enough when they had an ego available. When they didn't, it was just not nearly enough. I mean, look at the amount of damage they had to deal, and that still wasn't good enough because they needed more burst. They needed an ability to actually shut down that RT, and I think that Gus was just a pretty bad pick to that extent. I think he's good here. I think he's a good brawler overall, but I think he just completely, like, missed kind of the goal of what they needed out of that last brawler.
Yeah, I mean, I think more than anything, the idea was just being able to pump out sustained damage onto a singular target, melt it down, and then sort of progress to the next one. And on top of that, being able to balance damage output, but with you know, sustainability, with survivability, so that once they had cleared out 3R Gaming, they then could take possession and actually get some progress. And unfortunately, we only saw the one round of that set where the strategy sort of worked. They were able to isolate out singular targets from 3R Gaming, burst them down, and then take key positions. And unfortunately, 3R Gaming saw that, adjusted once again, and said, yeah, no, we're going to play the comp the way we want to. It's going to be sustained frontline, damage paired with, you know, this RT Meg combo, which is pretty hard to shred through if they're all sort of sharing the damage spread. On top of that, having a poke on the backline. So yeah, look, that was really intuitive stuff from 3R Gaming in terms of the way that they approached it.
Yeah, there was just not enough damage, I think, from CR. That was kind of a mistake in the comp. And again, if everything lined up perfectly, it was enough. But, you know, for the most part, 3R, all they had to do is try to avoid that situation from happening. And suddenly it was a very different game, and they were very, very comfortable in that set. Great set from 3R. Let's see what the response is going to be here from Crazy Raccoon, as we see a first big kit already here on Bell's Rock. You love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to see the Miko kit combo come out, which we did from stage 1. I don't think it made an appearance in stage 2, but it just allowed a pretty overt aggression in the knockout game mode. But kit, I mean, what is the game plan? What is the response from Crazy Raccoon? Do they play for some kite and the Otis coming through for Moya? So being able to deny that kit, get the suppress off and make it very, very hard to get up in the face of Crazy Raccoon, I think that's not the worst response. That's pretty solid, honestly.
I think it's kind of an interesting one still. I mean, I would much prefer like a Surge or something at that point, you know? I feel like it just kind of fits the role better. Viper, not a bad pick. Again, not really much of a response towards dealing with that kit pick. So right now, I feel like Crazy Raccoon are just kind of opting to not look into it too much. But what on earth is that? A Chuck on Bell's Rock is not something I had on my bingo card for this third season of LPL. Unsure about that. I mean, I guess the lanes are kind of like narrow, you know, so it's kind of predictable where your position could be, and you could just try to like choo your way to victory. But it's a bit of an interesting pick here, and I think Rico is kind of the only brawler on their comp that is like, you know, normal to see on Bell's Rock.
I mean, maybe it's something along the lines of a kit delivery system. I genuinely could not tell you why the Chuck has been slotted in. For the most part, the rest of it does make a lot of sense. I mean, the response from Crazy Raccoon, I think, has the tools at least to deal with. I mean, Kit Rico, Chuck, I feel like this is either going to be the biggest big brain play that we see all tournament, or this is going to be the most colossal flop that we see all tournament. It doesn't really feel like Chuck offers much in terms of middle ground, if I'm being honest.
It's an interesting brawler here, that's for sure, and I'm very excited to see how that actually plays out, because it's not something I think I've seen before in competitive. I'm assuming you're spot on with the fact that it's going to be combined with the kit, but how exactly that works is still very much a question mark for me.
Well, it's almost like a triple stack in mid here for 3R Gaming, and okay, so we're starting to get the flags out. Chuck is starting to at least toy with the idea of kit delivery. So Supers are both up for the kit and the Chuck. I mean, I'm not entirely sure. Tensai taking some damage. It feels like it's okay. There we go. Okay, so it is literally just a kit delivery system. Jumping on in, Chuck has the kit backpack. Well, I suppose it is the Wombo 1-2 combo, so not necessarily a delivery system, but just making sure that Chuck can survive and deal out the damage that he needs to. And I mean, this feels like it is one of the most niche drafts I could have ever seen, Teddy, that has still somehow picked up the first round of knockout.
Can we just talk about the fact that the train has passengers right now? Like that's a first for me. I've never seen it before. I love it. I love it. It's a super neat idea. I don't know, like, if this is something they can like repeatedly make work of, but look at that. The stun here, it's gonna be a trade. that does mean the kit is out of the equation for now, and maybe that makes things a bit easier with this matchup for Crazy Raccoon. But I have to say, their draft has been a bit odd as well. Like, I don't really get the Otis pick, I don't really get the Piper pick. I just feel a bit off meta, and maybe that's just like their drafting style. But so far, it hasn't worked out too nicely. Is that 2-on-2 a situation they can win?
It feels almost single-handedly targeted towards the kit, is what I'm seeing out of the Otis, being able to suppress, deny him from jumping on one of your teammates. Maybe they were reading into another potential pick, you know, obviously the backpack kit strategy, suppress goes out, and you may... So... It feels messy, but it is a win nonetheless for Crazy Raccoon. It's hard to quite analyze because I understand the theory behind it all, but I'm not quite sure that I'm correct in my assumptions.
It is an interesting comp here that 3R have brought upon us, and we'll have to see if this endgame of the third and final round is actually gonna be in their favor. They have the super now available, and there you have it. They're stacked up, ready to go, but no one in sight, no one in range. Another super coming through, but again, no direct connection. The kill is there though, but the chuck is low. It's a one-on-one at the end. Moya versus the kit. Mameshi has gone invisible, caught him off guard, and he's gonna win this one.
Again, I hesitate to say that either of those drafts were played out perfectly to their intention. I think 3R's draft worked the way they wanted it to. Sort of the kit backpack, Chuck dives in, does as much damage as he can, and then the rest of the team sort of, you know, mops up from there. But it just seems so chaotic.
I think it's a banger draft here from 3R. I love it. I don't know how easily this is like something you can apply, but it's opening a new realm of possibilities that I hadn't really thought of too much before. And I just like it, that the super high mobility and like compared with the damage and the fact that like the kit is invulnerable, right? Whilst it's on top of the chuck. So it's a pretty crazy comp. It's a pretty crazy comp, and I'm excited to see more of just that. They're stacked up and ready to go. First dash coming through. No connections from the kit though, except on Tensai now. Not enough to really be a threat, and that means that kit has to go back and reload another super.
It just feels like it doesn't quite offer the mobility that it needs to. Well, yes, it offers mobility. You know, Chuck is able to get quite deep. But all Crazy Raccoon have to do is sort of play a little bit back, and there you go. Unfortunately, they bait them into the overextension. Now they're looking for Moya. Big damage coming out. Chuck going to town on Tensai. Moya's down. Mameshi's in trouble, but it doesn't matter, and they just finish it. Okay, the draft. I've stopped doubting now, Teddy. I am a firm believer that Crazy Raccoon have been outplayed, outmaneuvered, and outgunned at every single step by this 3R Gaming huge brain draft.
I mean, we saw it already in the first set, right? That 3R were willing to innovate and redefine the rules of drafting in order to try to get the advantage, because they know that in a fair game, it's not a fair game for them. But look at that, Mameshi with a jump in, Yumi finds a second with that hypercharged super, and it's all the tempo now. And then he has to jump in, nothing he can do about that. 3R Gaming take over the lead as they pick up set number 3.
Okay, so we did see a draft similar in stage 1. It was the Miko kit draft. You know, just both of them jumping in, heavy hitting. I respect what they did with the Chuck, because he obviously a little bit beefier, can survive a little bit more, still has that same mobility. But again, high risk, high reward. We saw that, you know, that Crazy Raccoon didn't in fact have an answer to it. They just don't commit. They don't play where the flagpoles are. They don't allow the Chuck to dive on into them. Unfortunately, they then revert back to what they were doing, get too close, and then all of a sudden the combo is up in their face and doing it exactly the same way again. So look, whether they just slip with the brain and they were like, oh yeah, cool, we figured it out, and then they just forget how to do it, who's to say? But look, innovation, it seems to be the way that 3R Gaming are potentially going to take this series.
No, absolutely. So I think it's a mix as well of 3R having some crazy drafts and then CR having some like weird drafts too. Like Otis is not really a meta brawler, you know. Why was it here? There were plenty of other ideas that could have been brought out. The Piper as well, a bit of an odd one considering the kit was there. It just kind of felt like they didn't have a direct response to it, and later on in the draft they were not able to find anything to kind of like just close out that draft and iron out like that issue of the Chuck. So I would have maybe liked to see something to deal with that. I know that like a lot of tank counters were banned. Still, maybe this would have been a moment to bring out the Charlie or a Cordelius, the typical Chuck counters, even though they're both like quite outside of the current meta. I feel like they would have maybe given them a bit more of a chance. But either way, we are gaming. Neko now in the driver's seat, a set away here from going to the grand finals, and Crazy Raccoon have got to show them what they got.
Yeah, look, I'm still reeling a little bit off the back of that, but yeah, coming into it, Crazy Raccoon banned out the kit, they've banned out the Daryl, they've banned out the Sprout as well. Oh boy. Great Byron for 3R Gaming.
I mean,
I just feel like it's lacking the sustained damage in the comp. Like, they have potential to burst, but if Crazy Raccoon brings something a little bit beefy or something that does, you know, offer that significant damage at range, which, look, Nutty coming in, Gene. Okay, so I'm not a fan of the Draco to round out the draft, especially given how much range threat is there for Crazy Raccoon. I think you probably would have been better at doubling down on the range, just committing, you know, Gray, you've got the Byron, bring something that also matches some of that range. I have a lot of questions, Teddy. I have a lot of questions.
I mean, honestly, if I were CR, I would just ban all the cheese, you know? I would ban every game, no matter which map it is, I'd ban like Chuck, Kit, and Gray, you know? Those feel like the cheesy brawlers that 3R just kind of excel at, and they find super original ways to bring them out. Now, is this gonna be enough? I don't know. It's a bit of an odd one for sure. They have a little bit of everything they could ask for that Draco to shine, right? They have the TP, which is the way for the Draco to get up close and personal, and then they have the sustain from the heals from Yume on that Byron. So I see some real potential with that comp. However, Yume is gonna go solo dolo a little bit too much on the left-hand side, gets taken out. A beautiful pull from Moya as well, despite being one shot. And with a peep heading upwards, find a connection on the Byron, that would be huge, but I already see the Draco trying to tank for it.
I feel like this is a situation, you know, that, as the meme goes, if I open my mouth, I'm in trouble, because there are things that I would like to say, but I'm probably not friendly. I don't think the Draco was the right call. Yeah, cool, you've got the Grey delivery system, but we're in the entirety of the other team is range threat with a hook on top of it. Match range with range, because the Draco just can't get close enough. Cool, you've got a hook off, but there's no damage follow-up.
Yes. No, I agree with you.
I think 3R just entered the draft with that final pick.
I agree with you. Now, of course, you can get invincible, right? That's kind of like the gimmick of Draco. Tempo in a bit of a tough spot here. Actually, some kills coming through, and the lead for 3R. Billy, I think you jinxed it.
Cast a curse, baby. That's yeah. Look, they know my details. They know how to get a hold of me. I'm kidding. It's not. We have zero control over what's going on. And I think a bad draft has somehow interacted with a bad play out of Crazy Raccoon, which has enabled them to find an opening there. They dive on in. The Draco just has no support. Yeah. Look. Okay. They will get the kill back, but that's such a risky gamble for 3R Gaming in this position. I've talked about a high risk, high reward. This is just silly risk, silly reward.
It is a silly match point heading in the way of 3R though. One game away from the grand finals. Now I agree though that if played properly, CR can definitely beat this. I don't think it's an unbeatable draft at all, especially since like whenever the Draco doesn't have a TP, it's like pretty much worthless. Same without a super. also really hard to find value. Moya gets pulled, actually. That should be a kill if they can line things up, but there's no connection. Tempo finds Memeshi instead. How did Moya live there? That was crazy. IC gonna be very low HP, has the shield, of course, to tank, so he survives for the time being. And that means now 3 stars in favor of Crazy Raccoon. We are preventing things from getting too much out of hand, especially when they get a kill there, but the trade is quick as Yume falls to Moya.
Moya falls as well to IC. The teleport, that was clutch, just to avoid the last chip of damage. Nani, Super does go out, and look, it just feels like off the back of that round loss, suddenly Crazy Raccoon are a little bit scared, and they're playing that way. All of a sudden, this draft should not be winning the way that it is. 3R Gaming should not be winning this. There is just that much damage threat, whether it is a case of they figured out, actually, we could probably brute force the approach here, get that Grey Super up, suddenly Draco's up in the front line. But, I mean, if Crazy Raccoon played it smart, they would then not pick up the blue star. So yeah, it's a lot of gambling, honestly.
I think that's the name of the game for 3R, right? They like to play those risky comps here, try to look for something out of the ordinary and catch their opponents by surprise. I see you should get a free kill there on Tempo. Oh, nice dodge actually from that pool. The peep though will find a connection. I see still aggressive, still getting so much damage done, but Tempo shuts him down with a super to the face. Crazy Raccoon pick up the game, and finally something heading in their direction, but they still need this next game because it's still going to be very much match point in favor of 3R.
Oh, look, I want make it make sense, Teddy. Make it make sense, because in theory this should not be a draft that is as dominant as it is when it gets in the right position. The Draco, in theory, should never get close enough to really dish out the damage that it is. But just positioning, keep damage out from Memeshi, being able to deliver the Draco up into the face of Crazy Raccoon. It definitely feels like Crazy Raccoon aren't playing this to the level that we know that they're capable of.
No, I agree. It's a bit of a weird draft to play in the first place. Interesting play from Memeshi, going for that pull there, a little bit risky. Some high heals towards IC. Can he stay topped off and healthy? No. There's the kill. Yume looking for the tempo. Will find the deadly connection now. But Memeshi still not out of trouble just yet. The pool ready for the TP. I see going in though. I see finds 1, finds 2, nearly gets the 3rd. But the tempo stays alive, and it's 3 stars still in favor of CR.
Oh, just questions upon questions. It seems that Crazy Raccoon have righted the ship just moments before disaster. All of a sudden, though, 3R Gaming hit the aggression. IC backs off, and it allows Crazy Raccoon to find the opening to isolate. So 18 to 14, and suddenly 3R Gaming in a position where they can't actually afford to force this, because one death and Yume narrowly avoids it would have sealed this and forced us to series point. And unfortunately, I don't think there is enough to gamble here where they don't just immediately hand over the 2 stars, and IC's going to walk on and takes big damage, pops the super, gets the heal off, but he's got low HP. It felt like it was a series that was more decided by its missed plays than its actual plays, Teddy.
Yeah, it could be the case here. I mean, it is a very tough comp to pull off for 3R as well. I think that once CR kind of like identify the win conditions, they were able to do much better, get the slows at the right time, not give any space to that Draco to close the gap. I think they played it much better here in this game. The first one felt like they really just executed it quite poorly. So yeah, looking better from CR, and maybe the missed opportunity here from 3R. That was their chance to close things out before things get even, before CR can potentially have like a match point at the tip of their fingers. So I think this is a bit scary now for 3R, because I think CR move forwards with a bit of momentum. I would maybe approach the draft a little bit different if I was CR, because 3R have pulled off cheese in every single set so far. Everything was cheesy. I want to see, like, you know, bans that are relevant to what like 3R have been bringing to the table. Even though this is going to be a different like map and a different mode, and I don't think you would expect some of those brawlers like you're not going to see a Chuck here, but I still want them to nail that draft a little bit better, because it feels like 3R is able to punish the fact that CR is very boring and honestly quite bad at drafting.
Yeah, they are a bit rigid, and I mean, common sense would tell us that, yeah, the cheese should not work again. But the fact that it has worked as well as it has for 3R Gaming in this series might just give them the motivation they need to carry on with it. We do see the Otis, the Mo, the Gale coming out as first pick. Frank, Buzz, Daryl banned out. So all of those heavy frontline threats coming out, not to mention. I mean, the Otis ban sort of indicates to me that 3R Gaming might lean towards something along the lines of a kit, something, you know, one of those dash heavy brawlers that is looking to get up in the face of things. I have reason to be concerned here, Teddy, and I can feel the tingling sensation in the back of my neck growing that this could be an interesting one.
Yeah, I like the bans from CR. I think that Buzz is probably a targeted ban because it's not really a top brawler right now. Frank and Daryl are just kind of good here. I think Daryl especially does have that like cheesiness to it that would probably be interested to lean towards. They're gonna go for Larry Laurie so far, so pretty standard pick here, one of the top brawlers on this map. Just an incredibly strong thrower still, despite having been nerfed like dozens of times at this point. Sandy to pair it with it. So far, like, could this be 3R going with a normal comp? That would be crazy.
Well, we haven't seen the Apex Sandy Max here on day 2. So, I mean, it feels like there is a realm where that's a possibility, but I think that would leave 3R Gaming lacking something this draft, especially with the Buster coming out for Crazy Raccoon and the Barley to round things out. So, look, that's a pretty scary draft in terms of what Crazy Raccoon are bringing. I think the one big answer that you're looking for 3R Gaming is hypermobility, and that could be it. The El Primo self pass plus the wall break might just be the answer that they need here. Possibly other brawlers that would have done it a bit better, but it offers that beefy frontline that they were lacking to start that draft off with.
Yeah, it might just be enough. I think they have some good ideas across the board. Maybe not the craziest of the drafts we saw from 3R, but I'm a bit more curious to see how they actually play on, I don't say an even footing, but like, you know, with similar, normal, more traditional comps and not as much cheesiness. So that's going to be a whole different challenge here, and one that, like, in theory, I don't really want to say is in their favor because they've been avoiding it for the entire time, but it feels like they just couldn't avoid actually facing it.
Oh, well, we'll see if the draft is going to be enough to get through this. Look, I have concerns, and those concerns are already starting to appear.
A nice push coming forward for Crazy Raccoon. Moya wanted to score there, but did not have the space, especially with IC coming back with a super, and this is where things can get tricky. If he can self-pass and super, could be an impossible to defend goal. No, not quite this time around.
Oh, he does. He gets the re-super off, and he's going to handle it into the goal. That was on a knife's edge there for 3R Gaming. That should never have happened, but it did. Unfortunately for Crazy Raccoon, it did.
What a crazy play here from 3R, and it wasn't looking all that hot in the beginning either. Tempo gets a hold of the ball, passes the left-hand side, and somehow passes straight to IC. No. Mameshi has ball. Does he have enough space here to score the knockback? But the shot is in. And a huge blunder here from Crazy Raccoon, just straight up giving that match point away to 3R.
You talked about the domino effect, Teddy. And that was the domino effect in spades. The fact that not only did they get the first goal, they opened the wall to set Mameshi up for the second. And I think it's beginning to feel like Crazy Raccoon just don't know what to think in this situation, and they don't know what to make of this 3R Gaming roster, who are innovating, playing incredibly creatively, and oh wow, it's just, yeah, I see played that to perfection. On to Tensai as well. Moya wants to get in close, looking for the team pass there, but you've got Mimeshi holding the goal. He's going to deny it, and the ball will bounce back to IC, who's got the super, sets it up, pops the wall, picks it up, shoots it home. IC on this El Primo is putting on a masterclass.
This is some fantastic El Primo gameplay from IC. 3R Gaming here on the verge of qualifying for the grand finals, knocking CR off to the lower bracket. Another kill here. It's only Moya left alive to defend. The shot does get intercepted, but I think IC still slots it in regardless, and 3R Gaming have done it. They are through to the grand finals, and CR are going down to the lower bracket to face Coco Loco.
That should never have been allowed to happen. Not in a million years. Crazy Raccoon just at 3R Gaming are running circles around them there. That was brilliant stuff. I see Sakura on the El Primo pick, looking for something frontlining, something that has a little bit of mobility, and that could not have lined up more perfectly for 3R Gaming.
There's a bit of a scary parallel to make with the season 1 of LPL, where we had the same headline for the upper bracket finals. It was also 3R Gaming versus CR. It was 3R Gaming that actually won that one. Guess what scoreline? 3-2. And then CR went to the lower bracket, ended up winning their matchup, and then beat 3R in the grand finals. Is season 1 repeating itself again here, Billy?
Well, I don't know. What we do know, though, for sure, is 3R Gaming is guaranteed top 2. That is not at all what I would have expected, and it does mean Crazy Raccoon have to take on Coco Loco in the lower bracket final. Teddy, when we come back after the break, it's time to see if the craziness continues here in Stage 3. We'll see you guys in a bit.
Okay. Play for free and win prizes with LPL Showdown, a weekly tournament series at Let's Play Live. Currently available for Brawl Stars and more. Earn LPL points to redeem in the Showcase shop for subscriptions, digital and physical prizes. Subscribers can also win cash prizes and receive double the LPL points. Sign up for free today at Let's Play Live. Introducing LPL Tournament Builder. Build your own tournaments for up to 16 participants in 3 easy steps. Choose one of the 53 supported titles across PC, console, and mobile. Select the tournament format and number of participants. Set the prizes for your tournament. It's that simple. Your tournaments, your community, your way. Try LPL Tournament Builder for free today at Let's Play Live.
Well, with 2 games remaining, Teddy, Stage 3 of the LPL Brawl Stars APAC Tour has yet to disappoint. History repeats itself, at least in the upper bracket final. We now have to figure out whether history repeats itself beyond that point. Down to the lower bracket final, Coco, Loco, Crazy Raccoon. I mean, Teddy, if you had to guess, where are Crazy Raccoon mentally at the moment? Because it just felt like they were getting mind games throughout that entire series.
Yeah, I think that like they kind of got abused in the drafting process, where TR is pretty weak at drafting. They usually kind of believe in just like skill diffing their opponents. However, they have a completely different mindset. Like, they're not at all about that. They're just about trying to constantly outdraft, come up with some crazy ideas. And I think that's Crazy Raccoon's weakness, and maybe an area that like Coco Loco needs to approach as well. Because right here, Crazy Raccoon, they're still coming in as heavy favorites. I mean, they're the #1 seed in the region for a reason.
Yeah, they are, and obviously they're going to have their eyes trained on the Worlds coming up, not far away now. But Coco Loco, really at this point, this not necessarily the end of their competitive season, but getting pretty darn close. They missed out on LCQ. They, of course, will miss out on Worlds. So they have one of these few remaining opportunities to prove that they are actually one of the best teams in the region. They deserve that spot, which unfortunately they missed out on. And I couldn't think of a better way for them to do it than to potentially claim a scalp like Crazy Raccoon. And there you go. We've got our draft. Sneaky Fields, Brawl Ball, last stop gem grab, Ring of Fire on the hot zone. We see Snake Prairie coming back in once again, Teddy, and then it's Gold Arm Gulch for the knockout to round things out. So look, we saw plenty of Snake Prairie yesterday. If we want to see it here again, the series has to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, exactly that. I think that Coco Loco, their best bet is to try to gamble a bit maybe with the draft. Go 3R stealth, take some risks, go for some cheese. If they can pick up one of the 3 first sets, then suddenly set 4 is Snake Prairie, very cheesy as well. Potential to pick up a second set, and then you could see a set 5 situation happening. That's kind of what I would see as like a game plan if I was in Coco Loco's shoes. Now CR, I think they're going to have to try to prevent that. If they could get a clean sweep, I think that would really go a long way, because it prevents more misery to happen on maps like Snake Prairie, where I'm sure their drafting is not going to be like the greatest either.
Yeah, I think Snake Prairie it's still an unknown quantity, I think, for the most part. But here in Sneaky Fields, we do see X9J picking up the Gale first, which I mean, reasonably consistent pick across the board for the most part, given being able to dissuade a lot of those tankier picks, those frontliners that you're going to be looking for. Not quite as effective as I think that Crazy Raccoon would have liked in that last set, but unfortunately, that is in the past. You can't focus on it for too long.
Yeah, the Gale is a good pick. Very strong defensive brawler. Hypercharge is super strong as well. So nice ability to just like keep people at bay, keep them slowed down as well, and then open things up with a super, whether you need some relief on your defense or you want to try to open things up. So like that brawler overall, a strong early pick. Surge, also very strong. Ems, also both those brawlers actually recently hypercharged. However, I think that Surge is the better pick out of the 2 here. Very anti-tank focused on the CR side here, as they don't want to leave any threats that are up close and personal. It seems like that's just the kind of playstyle they like to avoid if possible.
Yeah, I mean, M's coming in to slow down the process for Coco Loco, Crazy Raccoon. I think it's a pretty solid pick in this draft, especially given how we've seen the Brawl Ball played out this tournament. A lot more focus on the mobility. Jackie coming in, looking to exploit some of the grass, those bushes, to be able to get up close and really be a threat up in the face of Crazy Raccoon. So I do like that as well. So they've got it. Both teams have a little bit of frontline, a little bit of burst, a little bit of dissuasion in terms of those tankier picks. But it's these last picks which could really dictate a lot of the pacing.
Yeah, they very much could. I mean, Jackie just completely turning up the pace here when it comes to this draft. Paired up with Anita as well. Don't mind it. I have pretty clear lanes here. Jackie going to be hopping on either left or right, and then Anita matching it. We'll have to see what Crazy Raccoon's last pick is going to be. it's a Colette. It makes sense. It's going to be good at shutting down Jackie. Nita, fairly tanky brawler as well. Even Gil, like, obviously not a tank, but not like a squishy brawler either. So I think Colette gets some good value across the board, really.
Yeah, just that threat of the damage output on connection is going to be a bit of a, not necessarily a problem, but enough to potentially make Coco Loco second guess some of their positioning. So I do rate it in terms of not necessarily just the draft flatly and what it's going to be doing on the field, but more the psychological element of it, or that potential threat that if you're not playing your positioning well, you could be punished quite heavily. So it does add sort of a secondary layer to it. But let's jump on into it. It's Brawl Ball to start things off here in the lower bracket finals. Teddy, winner moves on, gets a top 2 contestant in the grand finals. The loser is out in 3rd place, still in the money, but not nearly as much as it could have been.
Absolutely. So already Respawn's getting shut down by Moya on that left hand side. Jay also goes down a bit over aggressive here against Moya, and it leaves Anita all by herself. Moya pops super, is going to get pulled by Response. That's going to be a kill, traded out by Tempo now. Don't think they want to risk anything just yet. Probably just going to go for a safe approach as Response is pushing forwards, but he's so low HP and Tempo is just melting him down.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of an issue in terms of mobility, so it's not going to be as fast-paced as we saw, being able to get that self-pass off. Tambo likely the only one that is going to be able to achieve something of that caliber. Tensai jumping on through, finds 2 pretty easy picks onto Coco Loco. They're going to mop up the final. Tambo will just be able to shoot that home nice and easy for an opening goal there. Crazy Raccoon, this combo is looking pretty brutal. Coco Loco, I don't necessarily know if they have the tools to deal with it.
Response pops hypercharge, trying to close the gap onto Moya. Should be able to get the kill, never mind. Moya was a knockback. A nice burst damage, able to shut him down. Tempo pops hypercharge as well. Doesn't really have anyone in range to use that against. Tensai popped the hypercharge of his own, looking for Hiroshi. We'll find him with the help of Moya. Response does have the pull, gets the kill into Tensai. Nicely done. And for now, the game should be slowing down a little bit, but Coco Loco, they still need to score if they want to just even things out.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Even just threatening an overtime possibility by tying that scoreline up could be what they need to get themselves in with a bit of breathing room. But there you go. Tambo jumps on forward. Response finished. X9J not far from it as well. But no, gets the stun after connecting Tambo into the boxes. More damage, more output as Hiroshi gets Bruce onto the field, and Tensai will be forced out for the moment, allowing Response to get the respawn off and come join the fray. But they're still a goal behind. Teddy with 23 seconds to play. They need to work that ball up the field. Response has the super. He's going to drop it too. Tampo still alive, still pumping out damage. His Response is in trouble. Will be finished up, and that ball hasn't really progressed any further up the field. Big dive on in, but Tensai, it's more just mind games than anything. The threat of closing that gap is enough to dissuade them at the moment. 1-for-1, Hiroshi down, and yeah, unfortunately, Coco Loco not able to work that ball any closer than it was. Crazy Raccoon, the comp was just enough to threaten, but also dissuade. It sort of had that nice balance of just not allowing Coco Loco any real presence in that game.
I think it's just a bad draft from Coco Loco, really, because we had 2 tanks already, 2 tank counters already picked by CR, right? And then they still had the last pick that they could decide, like, and reflect on what Coco Loco picked. And they decided to go Jackie into 2 tank counters and still a brawler open for picking. It just doesn't really make sense to me. Now, this start is much better, but even then, I mean, they're not out of the murky waters just yet. Jake gets a nice knockback, nice pickup. Finally, things starting to go a bit better here for Coco Loco, but with the jump in from Tempo, does relieve some more pressure once again.
The only problem being that the ball is in an awful spot for Coco Loco to try and commit to. Hypercharge is there. Bruce going out. Tambo playing the corner. He's going to lose his life very, very quickly. Gives an opening here. Hiroshi might be able to walk it on home, but the ball's picked up by Moya. Will fall in proximity to the goal. And there you go. X9J will slot it home for Coco Loco. And map priority playing a huge factor in how both these rounds have gone this set. And there you go, response in. Jackie going to work with the super, popping things. X9J forces Tensai out of the wall. Tampo jumps on forward to try and create some space for the team. It will do just that for the moment. Tensai back up on this Colette is a threat. And I mean, looked good to start off there for Coco Loco, but unfortunately Crazy Raccoon right the ship, gets some breathing room back, and Moya in trouble. Will be finished off by Response. The tank count is not quite doing what they need to. Response, big opening for the team. Hiroshi slots it towards the goal, and it's just going to roll on over. And would you believe Coco Loco forcing set point here?
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't see that coming. I mean, that was the first one here to bash Coco Loco's scump. I think that mid area is the real like fighting place, right? Once it's too close and too defensive, I think it's really hard to get that Jackie out of range and out of that position, especially behind those walls. There's no wall breaks available whatsoever. So the name of the game here for CR is trying to keep them at bay and fight as hard as they can for that mid control, because that's where the game is decided for them. Seems like this time around where it's decided for Coco Loco as well, because just a few kills in the mid and instantly Crazy Raccoon find a goal.
Yeah, well, I mean, the name of the game is get close for Response. If he can get up behind one of those walls and start generating super and get it off comfortably, yeah, they can absolutely work their way through this Crazy Raccoon roster. As soon as they miss that opportunity, as soon as they start taking damage en route to get themselves in position, that's where things quickly slip away. And well, the respawns come back up, the trigger not quite pulled, their Response goes for the super, but it's off the mark. Moya answers back with one of his own. It's going to slow Response down in a rough spot. X9J sends his out to mop up. Moya gives Response a little bit more breathing room, but Tensai Hypercharge is there, finished off by Hiroshi, and they wipe Crazy Raccoon out to get themselves an opportunity to work that ball up the field. No super, so they're not going to get the super shot out, but Bruce going to soak some damage. Response is probably going to be a ball delivery system right now. Goes for the attack, but unfortunately is just melted.
Jay trying to buy some time here. I mean, all of this is only happening because Crazy Raccoon just had a crazy choke near that goal area where the pass was just completely missed, and somehow they managed to fail at scoring against an open goal, and now they are in trouble, potentially giving away a goal here to Coco Loco. Jay taking a lot of damage, so it's response. Moya cleaning house here, and that goes a long way. 50 seconds left. They're not even going to touch the ball. They're just going to play defensively in the mid and try to buy as much time as possible. All they need is 40 seconds.
They know they need to get one more wipe off here if they want a chance at scoring, because if they get themselves wiped, that Crazy Raccoon don't have the positioning they need to potentially force an overtime here. So Coco Loco rather, and there you go, big opportunity opens up. Moya getting huge damage out. X9J down, 23 seconds on the clock. Crazy Raccoon might have just done enough here to take the opening set of this series, and I think Hiroshi knows that there's the emotes coming out. 15 seconds on the clock, yeah. The spawn trap is key. You lock them in there, no wall break, no gap clear. So Coco Loco, they do make it work as best they possibly can, but unfortunately it falls short at the final hurdle.
Crazy Raccoon managed to make it work, but oh my, was that a messy and chaotic set from them. Honestly, a bit of an underperformance, I think, so far today from CR. Both against 3R, just not really playing like their best selves. And here against Coco Loco in the opening set, I mean, I think Coco Loco played better. It's just, I think CR had a much better comp.
Yeah, the draft, felt like it was lacking for Coco Loco. I mean, either you need someone to sort of help position the Jackie a little bit better, which they just didn't have. Because when it did get in proximity and did get in close quarters with Crazy Raccoon, it did a lot of work. But when it was just kited out and unable to close that gap, it was pretty easy pickings, honestly, for Crazy Raccoon. So going into the gem grab on last stop, hopefully the draft is a little bit more flexible in terms of what it needs to find success, because the win condition there was so easy to read into and so easy to punish for Crazy Raccoon that Coco Loco almost slammed the door in their own faces.
Yeah, I think Coco Loco needs to be a bit more careful with the drafting process. I don't think it was like a terrible draft either. Maybe I take my words back a little bit here, but still, like picking a tank against 3 tank counters seems like just an unnecessarily tough task to have to manage. I think it's going to be very different here, obviously, on last stop. I mean, it's a very open map. Does have some bushes, so you still do see some tanks being picked here. Especially Buster, I think, is very good on lane. But there's a lot of possibilities. I think that 8-bit for me is one of those bros that particularly shines on this one map, because it's so open. You have such nice positions to place your turret, and then you can TP back to safety anytime you get into danger.
Yeah, I rate the 8-bit, especially with the layout of the map, being able to play a little bit more aggressively. Crazy Raccoon leaning back into the surge once again. I mean, Coco Loco, they have options in terms of the response. I mean, do we see them lean maybe in towards something like the Gene, something like the Grey, to be able to isolate members of Crazy Raccoon and burst them? Probably not, given how Crazy Raccoon has been playing. I think it's a viable option, but not the most viable option at this stage.
I think Surge is a good shout. The bushes really enable him to quickly get that second stage. And if he gets to stage 3, you just need to try to stay alive, you know, and play range. You have a crazy amount of range, good damage, good mobility, very strong brawler overall. Gus probably going to be the mid option here for Coco Loco. I don't mind it. Obviously, Gus has just recently been getting back into the meta, so it's a bit hard to still tell how it's going to fare. Does have some nice burst when it comes to your cookie cutter gadget, able to just get that extra little bit of damage, exploding that balloon and turning it into just raw damage. I like the Crow as well. Good scouting capabilities. The slow as well can be very nice when you have a sharpshooter on your team, because it enables you to just get that extra little bit of help when there's someone that's out of position and slowed down. I think Gene is a fantastic mid here. I think that Nani is an interesting approach. I'm very curious what Coco Loco is going to go for their final pick.
I mean, yeah, Tensai Nani offers a little bit extra of that range. The new hypercharge potentially could be utilized there. Just that little bit of extra damage now that it does offer. The Nani pick at the moment. Coco Loco, Squeak. Okay. I mean, again, hypercharge on the brawler. We've seen it once or twice, I think, so far, stage 3, but again, not enough that it's been hugely memorable, if I'm being honest.
It's a brawler that CR has always loved, so maybe they play into that a little bit, in like getting back into the meta. I think that Squeak's problem is really just the fact that the meta is super aggressive. You know, there's so many aggressive mid close range brawlers that have high mobility. And basically, like, Squeak is the best at just locking down a specific tight area. If brawlers have any bit of mobility to deal with that and go past that area, then suddenly he's like completely useless. So it's a very much like, it used to be more of an early pick in general, because it's somewhat versatile. There's inability to deal with tanks, I think, makes it very much a late pick nowadays. And there's so many great late picks in the meta that it just doesn't really have much space to shine.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of posturing. Early couple of gems picked up by X9 on this Gus, like you said, looking to lock things down through mid. Hiroshi playing that threat up that left-hand lane. I do really rate it because, I mean, as soon as you get the super up, jumping on it, X9J going to be finished off, and those gems do hit the ground, allowing Crazy Raccoon to work on it. Hiroshi finished as well in response. Suddenly, he's very much isolated and in the danger zone. Will be cleaned up. Shitampo is well answered back at the very least, but all of a sudden, I mean, positioning works out in favor of Crazy Raccoon. They get themselves 5 gems on the fly, and Hiroshi just absolutely eats the damage there.
Does survive, which is quite big. The chip damage from Moya is going to keep him around that mid-health area. Jake taking a big chunk of damage as well. Moya has that pull. He's been sitting on it for a minute. Peep going to be looking for a target. Probably can't find a kill. I actually will find a Crow. Never mind. Big pickup over there. The tempo also going to be going down here. Crazy Raccoon do have a nice lead, but things are slowing down a little bit as Coco Loco are starting to retake some map control.
Yeah, 2 gems difference, and with map priority there for Coco Loco, they might just be able to work their way back into it. And aggressively pushing in. Hiroshi caught by the hook there, though. Moya will shut him down. The answer comes from X9J. They finish off Shitampo as well, and there you go. Unfortunately, just not quite close enough to be able to pick up those gems. Big opportunity there from X9J. Jumping on it, Hiroshi with the Crow. Pops the super and goes deep, but is it enough to dissuade? Not enough for the elimination, but it is enough for Coco Loco to snag the gems needed to start that countdown timer. All on X9J. Now you've got Hiroshi in response back in the front line to provide that cover. And this is exactly where Coco Loco want to be. They've dropped the gem carrier for Crazy Raccoon. The time bleeds away. That was brilliant. I mean, that's exactly what the lineup for Coco Loco needed to do. And I mean, how many times have we seen that here in day 2? If a draft does what it's meant to do and was always drafted to do, it is a pretty terrifying thing to behold.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a little bit confused there towards the end because I thought that Crazy Raccoon had enough gems to equalize if they got that last gem spawning in the mid. But Tensai kind of just like gave up early, and maybe I just misunderstood something, but it just seemed like a very weird like situation where they definitely could have turned things around still in my books. But I have to rewatch that again later to confirm that. But nevertheless, it's a game for Coco Loco. Crazy Raccoon after that now, but so far the start is very solid. Not too much to complain about just yet, as they got the first 5 gems all in their pocket. And so far, Response has had a miserable time on the right-hand side. I think the lane switch has been working really well here for CR.
Yeah, being able to lock things down. Hiroshi pops the super, but it's much of a muchness as Shitatampo, well healthy and able to deal with it. Response eats the hook. Was looking for the finish onto Shitatampo, but was denied. Unfortunately, they follow up with a kill onto Hiroshi and Crazy Raccoon. Looking a little bit better at the moment. So, Crazy Raccoon make the right adjustment in the moment. They're looking back and in charge. Response eats another hook. It's all coming at Crazy Raccoon here in the second round of the set.
Yeah, I really like the fact that they went for the Gene like on the right lane. I think it works so much better. The scouting capabilities are just phenomenal. Plus, if you go aggressive, you're going to feed towards those pulls that are going to be so annoying to deal with. I think he's a phenomenal brawler for that job, and I think that lane switch was very much what they needed to change. Now, I'm curious to see if Coco Loco have like an adaptation of their own to make that work as well, because they did make it work very nicely in game 1. Lanes are different now. Do they have what it takes here to make the difference in game number 3?
I think the problem is, though, that you make an adjustment at this stage for Coco Loco, and I think Crazy Raccoon probably already looked to make the adjustment, or at least they're comfortable enough with the adjustment that they've made. So I don't know. They're left mid priority. They will finish up Shitatampo, and it allows Hiroshi to have that control over the left-hand side of the map. Tensai as well, taking some big damage, will open things up for Coco Loco to establish some control. Hiroshi can look to try and cross on over and send out that damage to Shitatampo mid-jump, just eating punishment there at the hands of this Crow. So whether it is a case of adjustment, maybe not necessarily, but positioning and damage output looks a little bit cleaner for Coco Loco this time around.
Well, they've completely stopped Tempo from doing anything. Like, he's barely gotten any hits so far. He hasn't even reached stage 2 just yet. He does finally have good positioning to work with. But, like, how much effort did it take to make that happen? That's absolutely unreal. Tempo getting slowed down now as well. He's gonna go down here, I think. Oh, he does get stage 2. That is actually massive. He will be taken out, but that does mean that he has the advantage of getting that extra movement speed, which is going to go such a long way. Not out of trouble just yet, but he can pop gadgets if he wants that extra range.
Yeah, in response now, this left-hand lane has opened up some control, so a bit of a switch, but not quite. Means that Hiroshi can potentially be a threat over towards Moya. They need to isolate Tensai, who is that gem carry for Crazy Raccoon. 6 gem in the pocket. If they take him down, they can start the timer, and they've done exactly that. But Shitatampo trying to provide that cover. Hiroshi walks on up, only gets the 1 gem, but with Shitatampo going down, Response has the hypercharge as well. Looking to send it on out, and they pick up the gems they need to. We'll start that countdown timer in favor of Coco Loco. Hiroshi playing the front line will force Crazy Raccoon back just a little bit. Moya trying to walk his way in to contest these gem holders at the moment, but there is enough gems in the position that they need to be to keep this timer rolling, and Coco Loco will take the set on the gem grab and tie things up.
Nicely done there by Coco Loco. I think the issue here was the surge. Not a bad pick per se, but it just struggles so much in the early game, especially when you know what it's going to be doing. Because what they did in the game 3, and that was the adjustment from Coco Loco, is they stacked that left side because they knew that the surge was going to be coming there as the Gene was finding so much success on the right. And then they just made sure that he took forever to reach that second stage. And when he did, like, the game was pretty much already over. Tensai trying to over adjust by over picking the mid, gets punished for it. The gems get dropped, and that's the disaster there for CR. But the build up really was starting from the point where Coco Loco just completely denied any farm towards that surge, kept it on stage 1 for like so long, and once it got to stage 1, or it wasn't stage 2, it still gets outranged by everything on the map.
I think on top of that, it even went deeper for the positioning for Coco Loco. They stacked that left mid-hand side. Hiroshi pushes up, plays his life, allows Response to take control of the left lane, and then he pivots over to the right-hand side to deny Moya any sort of priority. So, again, it feels like Crazy Raccoon maybe stuck playing a little bit of checkers when you've got Coco Loco playing chess, and it was just a macro play that resulted in the victory there. So Coco Loco showing a little bit more depth than Crazy Raccoon were. So it's a team that looks as good as Crazy Raccoon does so consistently. It feels bizarre to see them in these situations.
Yeah, I agree. I think it comes down to the draft once again. You know, I think that the Surge was just not really the pick here, and I know they were probably trying to prevent like a Buster or something aggressive from being brought in as well. But at the end of the day, it just really didn't work out. And that was like it was very easy to identify that issue. In games 1 and 2, it was a bit different because the Surge, they didn't really know where he was going to be. Initially, he was on the right side. They weren't really able to scout him. Second game, they switched lanes. They weren't ready for it, so he surprised them on the left side. However, in the third game, they just read it instantly where he would be. And once they had his whereabouts, it was completely over. He never managed to really get towards the third stage, which is where he really started to actually have some pressure because he goes from being outranged by everyone to outranging it.
Well, heading into the third set here in the lower bracket finals, Crazy Raccoon with the first pick in the draft. So, I mean, at the moment, it definitely seems like there's a lot of brawlers that are seeing priority when it comes to that first pick, Surge being in particular one of them. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how Crazy Raccoon... Because, I mean, you got to remember, so upper bracket final was a bit of a mind bender for Crazy Raccoon. I think they probably suffered a little bit there at the hands of 3R Gaming. Now they're coming to the lower bracket. That last set, probably they frustrated a little bit, if nothing else, off the back of it. So we go Ring of Fire for the hot zone. We do see, I mean, Sweek and Gus both being banned is interesting. In fact, the fact that Gus was banned out by both sides speaks to how important both these teams see him on this map.
Yeah, it seems like it's a brawler that has skyrocketed up into the meta now. We'll see the Bell first pick here. I don't mind it. I think especially if you're expecting maybe to see some brawlers with spawnables or something that, like, you know, will push them to stacking closer to each other. I can definitely see this as being a very, very strong pick. So I don't mind it. Maybe a little bit flavorless. It's like, you know, I always say that first pick is either for like the most broken or the most balanced brawlers. I guess to that extent, like, this is more the most balanced side, and yeah, maybe it's a little bit boring. I think that Larry Laurie is definitely a strong option here, being one of the better throwers in the game. There are no unbreakable walls, I believe, on this map, making it extra strong, especially around that mid area. Maybe there are some like around the spawn area, but those don't matter too much. So it is not the easiest play to pull it off. If there are wall breaks, then yeah, that's exactly what they're gonna do. The Ruffs is there to open up those walls, dish out some dishes towards his teammate, and make sure they're all treated up. So I like it overall here, the approach here from Crazy Raccoon. It was a bit predictable maybe, but they needed something to open up the walls here against that Larry Laurie.
Then, of course, Amber stacked on top. A little bit of a nerf, but I mean, much of a muchness when she's pumping out that much damage. She will be able to clear out the bushes as well. So, I mean, in terms of the draft, a Sprout to round things out. I'm not sure. Yeah, your face much mirrors how I feel about that. I'm not sure that is the right play, given... I mean, look, he does a little bit more damage, but it's negligible in the grand scheme of things. I just... Maybe there is some big brain play when it comes to Ring of Fire. Look, to be fair, I don't think that's the case at all. I think maybe this is either something they've been cooking up, or they just want to rely on the double thrower to play around some of those walls, which, I mean, this wall break anyway, so... who knows? Maybe this is big brain, maybe it's not.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about it. I mean, I'm assuming they just want to play like aggressive on the left side and get quite a bit of range. Yeah, that's what the Sprout is going for. To that extent, it's going to be hard for Moya to get connections, and as long as he doesn't get connections, that means no supers, which means no wall break. But as soon as things start getting opened up, that Sprout is going to be super vulnerable. I mean, already feeding a shot here. Moya has got to find a way to getting that first super and opening up those walls. That will really go a long way because Tensai is just stuck there in the mid for now.
Yeah. I mean, the draft is doing what I think it was meant to do here for Coco Loco, which was threaten in such a way that they could control the zone at least early, and from there they could just look to hope to ride it through. I mean, force back for just a moment. It won't be the cleanest of takes of the zone for now, but I mean, it's sustained. It's long range threat. Unfortunately, with Hiroshi going down, that allows Showdown to walk on up and take some priority up this right hand lane. Finished off though, traded. Yeah, I think the hold that Coco Loco were looking for has already been broken.
Yeah, they actually destroyed the walls nearby, which gives a little bit of more space for Tensai and for the Ruffs. However, that still means that there's still that vantage point on the top left available for respawn, so we'll see how good that is. We're getting a few shots now though, so that is going to help get towards that second super. Moya, you can back very low HP. Percentage-wise, Coco Loco in a good spot. The tempo not having an easy time on the right either, so maybe this Sprout pick is working out better than I expected. At least so far, it's looking like it.
Yeah, but it definitely feels like it doesn't feel like it's comfortable. Tensai taking down X9J means that mid control is lost a little bit. Yeah, look, with the throws, they can maintain it to a certain extent while mid is on the respawn, but again, it just feels like it's a very, very tenuous hold, and that at any moment this could break in such a way that Coco Loco loses a significant amount of control and it spirals away from them.
It's still pretty tight when it comes to the percentages. Response was an aggressive wall. The mark is going to be connecting. Shidempo gets to burn down. Moya, where did that super go? Did he just open up their backside as well? I'm confused. Why not open the aggressive position? I mean, he gets a beautiful bounce now against Respawn, so that advanced position might actually save them. But I feel like it would just have been so much easier to wall break that like L of walls on the top left. I think that would have created so much more space. And he does it now at last, but that would have been my first wall break if possible. And maybe that's an adjustment that they should look into for the next game. They are winning nevertheless, but it's not by much. But I think that was more stepping into the zone now. That should lock it in. No time here for Coco Loco to catch up. 6% in it. Really not a lot, but Crazy Raccoon take the game.
Yeah, it definitely felt like Crazy Raccoon made it harder for themselves than it ever needed to be. I think, yeah, like you said, if they cleared that wall that Response was hiding behind earlier, he has far less effect over the map than he did. You can then look to sort of not necessarily advance that left-hand side, but at least force Coco Loco back in terms of where they were holding. So I think, yeah, from where that has to be the start. You need to clear that wall out. You need to deny Response that safety.
Good start here from CR. Tensai was that opening kill is massive. Those get tagged up. The piercing shot is really difficult to dodge from the Byron. Good tags though here from Moya. Does work towards that first super. Response, however, is successful at getting the kill. I don't think there is a super just yet. Obviously, the thing with those walls in the bottom is that they're great for spark walls, right? Like, look at the walls out there positioned, like Response is just absolutely vibing here. Struggling to find the connections onto Tensai, which helps him reset and place a nest egg as well. Kill should come through now, so I don't mind this first wall break here. However, the second one needs to be in that aggressive position. I think that makes a world of a difference, and I really want to see that adjustment. Although for now, if maybe that Sprout could fall, that would be big as well, the kill. However, it's going to be found by Tensai on the right side. It's Hiroshi who fall.
Yeah, I mean, a slightly more reserved approach on the whole from Crazy Raccoon means that they're not taking as much punishment. They are able to play in that zone a little bit more comfortably, and as a result, they've got significantly more time on the board. Response taking some priority. Will look to drop the super and give himself some more coverage, and he's just whittling away at the control of map control rather that Crazy Raccoon do have. Allows them to walk themselves back up towards the zone. And again, I think if they had dealt with the wall that Response had been working around earlier, they wouldn't be able to have as much map control as they do currently.
Temple will find the kill now. That last defensive wall destroyed by Moya. This is the thing with the roughs. I think this is the whole strategy of Coco Loco is the idea that if you don't feed the roughs, he's not gonna have any wall breaks. It's not like he just has a gadget or easily gets his super. He has to work hard for it. And so far in both games, they did a pretty good job at denying it. However, not been good enough. As right now, Tensai with the hypercharge got a beautiful kill down in the mid. Moya gets a snipe down to response. That should help him lock in a better position. And right now, it's looking like Ciara running away with this game.
Yeah, I think the general idea fell quite flat for Coco Loco. I mean, you could respect it, but yeah, look, response on the Sprout did, I think, what it was meant to do. The only problem is that Moya was just quite happy to draw Response's attention there because it opened up Tensai to control mid lane, deny X9J, and that's where the majority of their time in the zone came from, is the fact that Response wasn't necessarily able to assist because he was so busy trying to deny the super from the roughs. And look, it's good to see a little bit of mind gaming potentially out of Crazy Raccoon there.
I think what made a huge difference here as well is just the fact that the mid was much more like consistently going the way of CR. If the mid battle was going in favor of Coco Loco, I think it would have been different because suddenly there's more space for pinches and opportunities like that. The problem was the Sprout, if it was just stuck there and all it had to do is stop the roughs from getting value, it would have succeeded at that. But the problem arose when they would lose the Byron in the mid, and then they need to deal with that Bell that is just out there in the mid, getting percentage after percentage. The Sprout is the only one that can kind of like hit shots in that direction, but every shot it was shooting towards the mid was a shot that it wasn't shooting towards the roughs, giving away space, giving away possibilities for the roughs to come up with plays. So I think this is where things kind of fell flat. Not necessarily the Sprout pick by itself, but just the fact that that mid matchup was a losing one here for 3R.
Yeah, I think it could have been a different story if Coco Loco had been able to play the Sprout in a position where it was supporting X9J, but that wasn't the case. So, yeah, look, we can talk about it more if we need to, but I think the argument has been made that it was a rather underwhelming draft from Coco Loco. And speaking of drafts and Coco Loco, they will get first pick going into our next set as well. I mean, yeah, look, obviously, in a competitive environment, not every draft is going to be an absolute stunner, but especially at this stage of the tournament, especially going into a map like Snake Prairie, you kind of want the cleaner drafts to be coming out now.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of map where first pick is very important, and we'll see the RT. Arguably, the highlight of Snake Prairie yesterday was RT, just so incredibly strong, so incredibly annoying to deal with as well. Obviously can scout a bit from afar, but where his real strength is with that super. It's ridiculously strong up close. The damage output is unreal. It will one-shot like pretty much every brawler in the game. 2 shots every single brawler in the game for certain if you manage to hit him with your legs and your top part. So it's a miserable experience to deal with it. They're gonna have to keep him at bay, and that's exactly what they're going for already. I mean, look at that, Piper and then a Janet. I mean, not exactly what I was expecting here for Snake Prairie.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can understand it. You know, the Piper long range damage threat playing through mid, you got a lot of avenues to work with, but in a map where the ability to gap close is so deadly, if you can get up close without being spotted, all of a sudden that high damage output brawler up in the face. I mean, you're looking at the likes of the RT, even just tucked in around a corner waiting for your opponents to push into you. Yeah, I'm not sure Janet's the right one. Daryl could be very, very scary.
Yeah, I mean, they have nothing to stop it right now. Sure, you have a bit of a knockback with your auto aimer gadget on Piper, but like, is that gonna be enough? More likely than not, no. This is a scary situation here for CR. I think they have a tough draft ahead of them. Coco Loco, I think, have just such a huge advantage having that RT early on. It just meant that anything close range would be a bad idea, which meant Crazy Raccoon went for longer range, went for scouting, and now suddenly Coco Loco, I mean, they were really in the driver's seat, you know, could double down with a tank, something that's gonna make this CR comp cake go for the Mr. P, which I think is a prediction of an incoming Gene from CR, and they're gonna go away from that Gene towards the Otis, which is an interesting approach. I probably would have preferred Gale, but maybe Colette as well could have been a good shout. But it's not a terrible idea. I'm a bit worried. I would say that I personally definitely prefer the Coco Loco draft. Now, of course, CR, they have the advantage of being like so incredibly good at the game. So maybe they can just try to skill diff their way out of this one. But we saw them struggle yesterday on Snake Prairie already.
Yeah, it definitely feels like Snake Prairie coming into the competitive scene means that the meta is just a little bit hard to define at this stage, and so we are going to see teams, especially in tournaments like this leading up to Worlds, sort of experimenting and trying to figure out what sticks. So I can understand why we are seeing these wild deviations come into the map, but unfortunately with the Piper on the board, it's a tough time.
Yeah, the thing with Piper on this map is you can play Ambush, which is a star power that gives you extra damage when you're inside of bushes. You're always inside of bushes on this map, so that's not really something like difficult to, you know, put 2 and 2 together. Obviously, it's still better at a range. Struggles up close, and Tensai is gonna get taken out here by Response. The Mr. P getting some good value across the board. Moya gonna get completely caught off guard. Sure, the Nempo is flying around. He does get some good information. They're actually both pretty low. If they can find the connections here, this could be some huge kills. Tensai forced to jump back. Nearly goes down still to Jay, but it's not quite enough. Crazy Raccoon 4 stars behind here.
Yeah. Again, you want to theory craft, you want to talk about it, but I mean, again, until we start to see more of Snake Prairie in the competitive scene, it's going to be hard to sort of form those solidified opinions, because I mean, what is played is going to change, you know, sort of week to week, I think, as teams sort of refine as they go. But I think, yeah, this Bush Camp Piper is a pretty big threat until you get a Daryl up in your face. And I think we're going to see either a combination of the Piper Bush Camp or those heavy hitting damage dealers that can get close in the bushes being the priority on this map.
Well, it's only 3 stars in it. Make it 1 now as Jake sacrifices himself to create some time, buy some spades, but Hiroshi is ready with a gadget, with a super. The tempo gets melted down, and Coco Loco are 1 game away from taking us all the way in this series as well.
Yeah, it always felt like Snake Prairie was going to be a bit of a stumbling block for a lot of teams, especially, I mean, Crazy Raccoon looked very, very solid in this series so far, but you come to a map like this, which is going to be a bit of a curveball, and these cheesy style, it's not necessarily cheesy style drafts, I don't think, are going to be the ones that really upset and throw the mental off. And Mr. P, yeah, that ability to scout Daryl up in the front line, the RT, I think RT and Daryl especially are probably going to be staples on this map. Shinitampo takes to the skies, 9-0. X9J will fall, but he's not one of the gem carriers, so it's largely irrelevant. Oh boy. Yeah, Coco Loco. Coco Loco seem to have done their homework when it comes to this map.
Yeah, they have. I mean, I think that, like, Crazy Raccoon should just have banned RT. I don't know, it just feels kind of silly to leave it out, but I get that, like, Bo and Buzz and stuff are threats on this map. I definitely agree with it. But, like, RT is just ridiculously good here. He one-shots everything in his path. Has some range as well when he needs it. It's just too good, man. It's just too good. Look at that. Jay coming in as well, getting the extra kill here. It was just a terrible draft and like one of many for Crazy Raccoon here. I like the idea of the Piper. I really do. I think it can, like, it definitely has its space on this map. However, you have to ban RT, man. You have to ban RT because, yes, Bo is super scary, and like bros like Tara and you know, Buzz, all those bros that give you vision are super strong on Snake Prairie. However, RT locks you into a poor drafting style, because once the RT was picked up, they were forced to go for long range because nothing is going to win up close. And at that point, it's super easy to abuse because Coco Loco can just go for anything that is like close range. You know what I mean? Like it just completely covers the weaknesses of RT. And suddenly there's just no win conditions whatsoever for CR. It's just like the draft was lost in the first pick.
Yeah, again, I think it is going to be hard to sort of lock down a meta, especially at this stage for Stake Prayer. I think Worlds, we are going to start to see what the global feeling around the map is once we obviously hit the big stage for competitive Brawl Stars. And yeah, it definitely feels like Coco Loco thought a little bit deeper about the map and what they wanted to play. I think we are likely going to see that sort of become the meta, which is that close quarters ambush heavy damage dealer, which we see a lot of the RT. I think there is probably room for the Piper long range, bush camp threat, but it's about rounding out that draft in a way that means she can actually do what she's designed to do, which probably wall clear along those lines. But Teddy, it's time to go to series point. We've got a map 5 on our hands, second one of the evening, and look, Coco Loco having first pick coming into this matchup. Gold Arm Gulch for the knockout. I mean, what do you reckon? Kit's banned, Gene, Gus, Otis is banned out, RT's banned out, and we rounded out, of course, with the Cordelias. Obviously, I mean, Otis, earning a little bit more respect than I thought necessarily was justified, and Daryl, a pretty solid pick at the moment on the whole.
I think Crazy Raccoon are like the only team on Earth that play Otis. Genuinely, no one else really plays that brawler. I'm guessing it's just a very targeted ban here from Coco Loco. Maybe it's coming back into the meta and Crazy Raccoon are just visionaries or something. Either way, Daryl is a threat here. I think it's a good brawler to have. Is it a brawl you want to first pick? I don't know. There's still Colette open. There's still Gale open. There's still Surge open. A lot of tank counters that could easily join the ranks of Crazy Raccoon early in this draft as well. That's kind of what I'd be assuming to see. We'll see the Mo. Okay. I mean, sure, fair enough. It plays very similarly to Daryl in the extent that it can be over aggressive with that dash. However, it does also have a little bit more range and of course not as much damage up close. So I don't mind it. I still want to see one of the bros I mentioned earlier. Otherwise, I would be kind of surprised.
I wonder if maybe. I mean, look, Daryl's solid. Has the ability to close gap frontline. I think maybe if Coco Loco are smart, they use it to draw some picks out of Crazy Raccoon. Because I mean, again, Crazy Raccoon haven't been that crazy. The Nani coming out, so I mean, again, some threat. New hypercharge coming in the back pocket hasn't been terrible. I mean, it was pretty lackluster when we saw it last on 10 side, but that was a different series entirely. Coco Loco, I mean, the threat of the Daryl is you push up one of those far right, the side lanes, get close, and all of a sudden, he's got his super up, he's dashing all over you, and then he becomes enough of a distraction that the rest of Coco Loco can close the gap and get up and wipe the team.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if Crazy Raccoon had picked some tank counters, I think Coco Loco would have gone for Byron, Rico, or something like that. But now they haven't, and this opens things up for them to pick up some tank counters as well. They're gonna go Max, which is not an outright terrible idea. Maybe they're reading that Crazy Raccoon might want to last pick it. Again, I'm still worried that CR doesn't have any tank counters, and I feel like Coco Loco, they can still punish that by picking up that Gale or something along those lines. Yes, it doesn't do the utmost greatest against those matchups from CR, but it's not outright terrible either. So maybe something to lean towards. We'll have to see what their final decision is gonna be, but they always gotta be careful of that Mo going aggressive. So I feel like a Gale would be a great measure at dealing with that as well. And they're gonna go for Squeak, so they just don't really seem to care about the Mo. I'm assuming they're just willing to tank it with the Daryl.
Yeah, I mean, you pair the Daryl with the Max, and suddenly you've got a reasonably beefy brawler that has AoE damage that can suddenly close that gap a lot faster. And the Lou definitely feels like it is in response to X9J on the Daryl. Whoever picks up the Daryl, just being able to get the freeze off and slow that roll, even onto the Max as well. I mean, again, we are starting to see Crazy Raccoon shift their approach to the drafts. It's no longer, we're just going to do our thing. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Now they're trying to, counter draft, sort of trying to big brain it against their opponents and make it work. So, I mean, I can't say that I'm leaning one way heavier than the other. I think I lean a little bit more towards the Daryl Max combo, because that is something, once the supers come online, can suddenly get up in your face very, very quickly and could be quite, quite impactful. But I mean, on the whole, if played correctly, Crazy Raccoon do have answers.
Yeah, I think it's still a bit of a crazy draft here from CR. I think it's crazy to have the Daryl this early into the draft, but I think it's even crazy that it wasn't punished more. Nevertheless, Jay was a crazy overextension. The tempo, I was going to say, was a free kill. Nearly doesn't quite get it, though. Beautiful tag from Response. Turns this into a one-on-one, and suddenly what was a free round here for Crazy Raccoon might be a bit too awfully even.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it does sort of nullify all the big brain thought put into the draft if you just brute force it and just sort of, say it with your chest and just go to the all-out fight off the rip. So yeah, it makes it a little bit more difficult. Now it's just about dodging damage. Moya is gonna concede first blood, I suppose, in this skirmish, so to speak, but damage is going to be healed up. But I think this is going to be a bit of a war of attrition. Both are just going to sort of send shots down range, not really connect either way. And I mean, Response is going to get damage out. He's just dropping it all at Moya's feet. And it's about finding that opening, that opportunity. And it did go the way of Coco Loco.
I mean, it should never have happened, really. Once they killed the Daryl, they should have just played the 3-on-2. This is just a big blunder. And look at that, Daryl gets a pickup now. This is a bit unserious from CR. 3-on-1 now. Only Tensai left alive. And unless he pulls out the same kind of miracles that Respawn does, then yeah, that's not going to happen. I mean, this is just not a good performance from CR so far today. They've disappointed us many times, but I think this was one of their bigger throws yet, because they had a man advantage, and then they use a super to get a trade, which is already not bad value, but actually they end up like not even getting the trade, and I don't know, man. Disappointing stuff, I think, from CR here, as Coco Loco had to match point.
I mean, I think the beauty in this draft for Coco Loco is that it just fares that little bit better to the all-in commitment, given the AoE damage coming out of Daryl and the Squeak, of course. A lot of the damage coming out from Crazy Raccoon is more single target. So you do struggle a little bit. Yeah, I mean, look, Nani can spread that damage, but not quite as cleanly as you can with the likes of the Squeak, with the likes of the Daryl. So yeah, it's about staggering, finding. I think Crazy Raccoon want to win this. They need to just sort of death ball it, isolate one target, finish them off, and then go for the next. But given how much AoE damage is going out, there you go, X9J straight into the thick of it, looking, hunting. Response does go down, and the freeze comes out onto X9J. He's in a bit of trouble, and that is the alternative. Either you isolate and whittle them down one by one, or you wait for Coco Loco to make the mistake and then do the same.
Much better here from CR, not giving too much away this time around. And it seems like there is a bit of a chance here for them to bring this to a double match point. The tempo does take a bit of damage. We'll have to be careful. Moya low on the left-hand side as well. They place a defensive freeze just to be safe. Tempo does have that super, but he's taking too much damage. Forced to roll away. Needs to make sure that no one gets in range. And look at that. Hiroshi gets the kill. This is where trouble comes straight back towards Crazy Raccoon's door.
I mean, positioning is so key in this matchup, and we've seen both sides make a misstep that has ultimately cost them a round in the sets. I mean, a sub-round in one of the rounds and one of the sets, you know what I mean. But so I think, especially given how long they've been playing already, I mean, Crazy Raccoon and Coco Loco have had some pretty long matches to start off with, and now as a result, maybe some of that fatigue setting in, and you see it, super goes out, X9J deep into the thick of things, and the wombo combo Max Daryl setup is exactly played the way it was meant to be, and there's just no getting away from it if you're Crazy Raccoon.
One round is all that Coco Loco needs here in order to go to the grand finals and eliminating Crazy Raccoon from the competition. Top 2 is on the line here, and Coco Loco are hungry for it.
I mean, remaining in the tournament on the line as well. You lose out here, that's done, you walk away. Yeah, look, $1,200 is great and all, but it could have been more. It could have been so much more at the end of the day. The missed opportunity is probably going to sting just a little bit in closing out the year. it's a bit of split difference. I mean, we were going top, bottom, and now it's left, right, of course. And Hiroshi hits it, looks at, goes Speedy Boy, and X9J follows it up with a roll on it. Hiroshi down. They follow it with X9J, and this should be an evening up. We are going to double series point here, Teddy. We are going the full distance. It is all down to this final round of the knockout. And look, if we were to talk swimming in terms of the metaphors for this, both teams are barely keeping heads above waters.
Double match point, winners takes all, as Coco Loco and Crazy Raccoon go the distance and will be deciding this series. And whoever is going to be attending the grand finals with just this one singular game. And it's a left-right setup for the time being, as both teams are playing cautiously. They don't want to give anything away like in the other rounds where we had some early kills from some placement mistakes. This time around they're playing together and making sure that they have their backs covered.
I mean, the most frustrating element of this all is the fact that Crazy Raccoon might still win the series, but they've gone out of their way to make this day as hard as possible. The X9J diving on into 10 side, big damage out, but X9J hasn't got away from it unscathed. Shinatampo responds with his own on the Mo, dives into the back line. They find two. Shinatampo still alive. X9J will pick him up at 1200 HP in a dream. Can't do much more off the back of it. Crazy Raccoon capitalize on X9J's over-eagerness. And Coco Loco find themselves staring down the barrel of elimination.
It was a good attempt here from Coco Loco, but now suddenly it is CR back in the driver's seat. Can they end things right here, right now? Get back to that 3R match in the grand finals? Or is Coco Loco can be able to take us to the ultimate round of knockout? They have the roll already available on the Daryl. Moya has a freeze available too. That is going to be key in defending that endgame. But for now, it seems like CR have just a little bit more map control, but everything is going to be thrown up on its head whenever that Daryl goes for a roll.
I mean, the big problem is, yeah, X9J can dive on in with a Daryl, but where's the follow-up? There you go, Hiroshi behind X9J. Shinatampo dives on in, but he's still alive. Hiroshi falls, and it seems that Coco Loco may have just whiffed the opportunity of the season to close out this series, and it is a 1v3. X9J dives on in, but doesn't have the damage. Crazy Raccoon, ice in their veins, clutch it up, will deny. Coco Loco, the upset, will deny the series away from them, and Crazy Raccoon will get their rematch in the grand finals against 3R Gaming.
CR are going to the grand finals. Coco Loco, I mean, isn't it the kind of the name of the game for this team, man? Always so close to greatness, but just shy of achieving their goals. No LCQ just earlier. It's heartbreaking, you know. No grand finals here either. It's gonna be OCR versus 3R, and I have to say this is going kind of back to the first season. Billy, how is it possible? Just as a reminder again, 3R beat CR 3-2 in the upper bracket finals of season 1 of LPL. Then CR, it was against Revenant, but they beat them 3-2 in the lower bracket. The same exact scorelines. And then we get the grand finals, 3R versus CR once again. I mean, what a way to kind of like end this year of LPL with just a throwback to everything that happened in season 1.
Well, I mean, the wild thing is Crazy Raccoon have already played 10 maps today. And they've got to play potentially another 5 in this grand final. So, look, I wouldn't say that series fatigue, tournament fatigue is going to be a huge factor at the moment. But, I mean, 10 maps, going such long distance to these series, in such tense situations as well, I would imagine there is probably something in terms of mental wear and tear going on for Crazy Raccoon at the moment. The fact that they've come so close to being knocked out of the tournament, only just to scrape it on through, yeah, that probably weighs on you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, stamina is definitely an area that they're, going to be training here. Let's see if 3R here, our top seed now, I guess. I mean, CR still like favorite just because it's CR, but 3R Gaming did beat them just earlier today. So they are right now in the driver's seat. They come from the upper bracket. They have some more momentum in their fingers. But Crazy Raccoon, I mean, what a run here as well. Making it all the way to the grand finals. At the end, they're through the lower bracket, but no easy matches there either. It's quite the storyline here, Billy. However, I mean, you know, I don't want to jinx it, but we've seen this scenario unfold before.
I mean, history is repeating itself at the moment, but looking at the veto knockout out in the open, it's Bounty on Canal Grande, Pinball Dreams Brawl Ball, Double Swoosh Gem Grab, and Open Business Hot Zone to round things out. I mean, going from knockout in what was such an uncomfortable series for Crazy Raccoon, only to jump straight back into the deep end in the grand finals, do you reckon that's a little bit of a cause for concern?
Yeah, no, definitely. Especially since those maps, I would say at a first glance, leave a little bit less openings for cheesiness. I didn't see any clear chuck lines. I didn't really see any easy kit maps either. They can still be played, and I think they can still do some original things. I don't think it's going to be as cheesy because there's no snake parry, and I think that overall the map pool here is a little bit more traditional, at least when it comes to the brawler pools that are relevant to them. One major talking point here, Billy, is no bracket reset, meaning that they're in a complete even footing despite CR coming from the lower bracket. So technically, no real advantage here for either side.
You say that, but you got to remember, again, Crazy Raccoon have already played 10 maps so far tonight. Crazy Raccoon got to sit back. Sorry, not Crazy Raccoon. 3R Gaming got to sit back, watch while that lower bracket final played out. So I think there is, I mean, it's not going to be a massive advantage, but enough that, 3R Gaming got to sit back, watch, sort of figure out, get a gauge on their opponents coming into the grand finals. Yeah, look, they've already played them today, but I would argue that if nothing else, that they're going to be feeling probably a little less fatigued. And going into the opening map, 3R Gaming have first pick, and I mean, it has been a bit of a mixed bag in terms of drafting. First pick has sometimes been what helps teams carry it over the finish line, but again, with how things have been drafted, I think it probably favors Crazy Raccoon, who have been struggling in the drafting phase so far, getting that little bit of extra counter ability at the end.
I think that less cheese is definitely something that CR are going to be very happy about. Now, I'm saying less cheese just as in the maps are less obviously cheesy, as in no snake prairie, and I think that Bell's Rock and some of those maps can easily be abused a little bit. I don't see anything like that happening, at least not as straightforwardly with the map pool we have here. Either way, first pick Gene here, locked in by 3R Gaming Neko on out in the open. CR will have to find a way to react. Maybe brawlers that have something that can be tanked by the Gene pool. Maybe brawlers that don't mind being pulled, and think particularly about something like a Meg. I don't mind the Gus here. I think it's been doing them quite a few favors so far. Nani as well. I'm not as convinced of. We've seen it do well. We've seen it struggle as well. So far, I feel like Nani has been a bit unconvincing, and I do like the Buster. We have not seen enough Buster, in my opinion, this tournament. And another Mo. I mean, the drafts are just kicking in thick and fast here.
Yeah, I mean, I like this draft from 3R Gaming. It's a little bit of frontline, a little bit of punish, not to mention, Mo can really shift on a dime the momentum of these rounds. So I think for 3R Gaming, it's a pretty well-rounded Crazy Raccoon. Yeah, you've got decent damage output, but again, it just feels a little bit shallow, if I'm being honest. If you do get caught, if you do get overwhelmed, the Meg, I think that is probably the right play. Gives that front line, means that Mo isn't going to find as much value if he dives onto the back line because Meg can sort of turn assist. So yeah, I do rate the final pick there from Crazy Raccoon. I don't know if it's enough to make this a favorable draft for them, but it was definitely the right adjustment with that final pick.
I think that CR have 3 great brawlers. I think that 3R has a great comp. Kind of how I would see this. All good duelists on the side of 3R, of CR, sorry. But for 3R, they just have great synergy because they got the front line with with the Buster. They got the heals and the team utility from the Gene, and then they got Mo for the mobility. So to that extent, I feel like they just have a super complete comp, much more than Crazy Raccoon, which again have great brawlers, but they don't really synergize well together.
Yeah, I think that's the long and short of it, and especially playing on that indestructible choke point, the wall break not really being there in the grand scheme. I think, honestly, you had the option to play a little bit slower. The montage comes out, but Burned not soaking a whole lot of damage. They have been forced back. Crazy Raccoon not in the greatest of spot, and suddenly map priority is shifting in such a significant way. Tensai taking big damage, waiting to get those supers on board. I mean, 3R Gaming have some pretty momentum shifting supers as well, and IC has his up. You may as well. If they get a decent pull here, it could be real trouble. Big damage coming out, and there you go. The pull onto Moya just starts. The dominoes falling to the Thampo alone will fall. And yeah, that was just brilliant stuff from 3R Gaming. They played that timing very, very well.
I mean, as I was saying, like, 3 great brawlers on CR, but I think 3R have the comp. They just have all that team synergy that just lines up together nicely. Look at the HP situation already. The pull onto Moya is a disaster. Actually survived on 1 HP for a second there, but still gets shut down. Tensai is next. The tempo waits in line, and that is 3R. Was a very straightforward first game here. And I feel like they should be able to lock in the next one as well, because I think it's an out comp. And again, CR's comp being consistently disappointing so far.
Yeah, I mean, so you pick the Nani and the Gus first. You're then forced to pivot into the Meg. So it fits a necessity in the roster, but not necessarily in a way that's synergistic to the draft. So yeah, very, very janky, very jarring, I think, for Crazy Raccoon, opting to do something because they needed to, not necessarily because they wanted to.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. 3R. However, they want to make sure they don't waste this opportunity. They got a free set in their hands. They just got to make sure they extend their hand and their arm and actually grab it. I know the health situation is quite miserable here for CR. Pete heading south. Is there a play to be made? Connection will be found with Memeshi, but just not about enough damage. Memeshi survives with 100 HP, starts resetting. Tensai low HP, Tempo out of mech. Things could not have really gone worse here for CR. And 3R Gaming now a round away from taking the opening set.
Yeah, and I think that's the momentum that 3R Gaming wanted to be coming into this grand finals with. They've proved that they are the better team once again than Crazy Raccoon. They aren't able to prove it twice, closing out stage 1 with a victory, but here they are looking like they are reinforcing what we saw out of that upper bracket final. And once again, Crazy Raccoon have gone from contesting middle map to being forced back into their own side of the map once again. Meshi mops up Moya. The time out of the mech already is just going to be cleaned up, and it's Tensai alone versus the world. I mean, not to be disrespectful, Teddy, but that looked easy for 3R Gaming. That was not a challenge at all.
I just don't really understand the comp from CR. Yeah, look at that. No kills whatsoever. It's all donuts for Crazy Raccoon. I mean, 3R Gaming just did not give anything away. There are a few moments where maybe some fights could have been turned around a little bit, but for the most part, it was 3R in the driver's seat and Crazy Raccoon just trying to get any sort of value in that game. Tough opening set here for CR. Maybe they are starting to feel that exhaustion, or maybe their drafts are just that bad, man. It's impressive because they are definitely the strongest team in the region, but like their drafting is just so inconsistent and so simple in many ways. And I just don't really get the approach. And whenever they do try something a bit different, it's just weird picks, kind of, bringing in Lolas and Otis in places where, like, you already don't necessarily expect them, but those brawlers have been off meta for a while. So I think this is like the one element where CR needs to put all of their energy in, because we know they are mechanical, like, unbelievably strong, talented players. But the draft is an area where they just consistently have been slacking so far.
I want to play devil's advocate here, and I'm going to do just that, Teddy. There is a chance, however very minute, that this is all just smoke and mirrors and Crazy Raccoon are trying to set themselves up going into Worlds by maybe representing themselves as weaker than they actually are. Now that is deep cut conspiracy theory that they are trying to psychologically tell the world that they are a bad team going into Worlds so that they can come in and a mess with people and upset. Look, I don't think that's the case. I think we are just seeing the fact that Crazy Raccoon haven't had the ability to play much as of late. Changes, maybe just a lack of flexibility as well in terms of the current state of the game. But yeah.
All right, well, draft is kicking in. We got Gene and an Otis already on CR. 3R have the Mo and the Barley. They are going to have the next pick, I believe, and it's going to be an RT joining their ranks as well. Overall, pretty happy with that draft. RT is going to prevent something like a Jackie from happening as well. So I kind of like that idea. Mo very good at bringing in that aggression. The Barley also super good with the unbreakable walls. I think better than Sprout on this map as well. So for the most part, I think 3R have draft here again. Now, it was only a quick glance at the full picture here, so maybe things will be unfolding a little bit differently. But for the most part, it's looking like a good 3R draft once more.
Yeah, I mean, it begins that discussion of how long can a team ride mechanical skill and ability without having to dig a little bit deeper into the strat book and make sure that their drafting and macro is up to scratch. I mean, look, again, it is inarguable that Crazy Raccoon are currently the best team in the region. They are for good reason. They've been playing incredibly well this year, but something definitely feels a little bit off coming into this tail end of 2024.
Well, let's see here if they can turn things around. But so far, it's everyone back in spawn. Might end up all being cornered in that tiny little cupboard on the left-hand side. This is a disaster striking Crazy Raccoon here, as they have absolutely no map control. And I mean, I said it earlier as well. I think Thoreau's draft was looking really solid. Don't know if Sprout is the pick here. Maybe they can cook something still, but it's definitely not a great start on their end. And I think that Barney is just a far superior brawler when it comes to this map. It's going to be very difficult for CR to push forward and find value.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like it's a little bit of a struggle. The Barley offering that much more, and then you've got the RT camping. Mameshi can dive on in as Mo. Yeah, look, they've sort of got elements of everything that they need to, but I look, yeah, Tensei gets a kill back, but it feels like much of a muchness if I'm being honest with myself. The Otis, yeah, again, it's sort of, it doesn't quite deliver on what it needs to in the comp. Yes, you can suppress someone. Yes, you've got the range threat, but it's not massive range threat. The suppress isn't really going to do much when they can just still punish you with the rest of the team. I don't know. Brute forcing picks like this just feels like wasted opportunity.
I agree with you here. I think it's a bit of an interesting draft here from Crazy Raccoon. You may be taking a lot of damage. Get it? It's gonna keep him alive. The super here buying some time, but this is gonna be the final push here from Crazy Raccoon. If they want to have a chance in this game, it has to be right here, right now, but they're so far away from their opposition, there's no chance they get in range, and it's going to be a game with only 2 kills, but the Blue Star makes the difference. 3R Gaming now with a 3rd game in a row, and CR, they got to start being worried here.
Okay, so I hit you with the, maybe it's all mind games conspiracy theory about they're trying to psych out people going into Worlds. I have another one for you, Teddy. So what has happened is Crazy Raccoon have accidentally double booked themselves, and they've gone to their younger siblings and said, hey, I need you to play this tournament for me. I've got something else on, and that's actually what's happening. Again, I think we're diving even deeper down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole than my initial theory on that one. But look, it was a player, an OS player that once said, and I think it probably is what's happening right now, anyone can show up and have a good tournament day. but it's also true the opposite. Anyone can show up and have a bad day, and I think that's what's happening here. I think Crazy Raccoon have come into this, they're having a bad day, and 3R Gaming on the opposite side, they are having a very, very good day.
Well, the thing is, like, having some difficulty, like, in-game strategizing and mechanically, like, I get it 100%, but I feel like having a bad day with drafts is a bit different. It's just kind of weird, you know what I mean? Because, like, a lot of this is just kind of preparation, is knowing, like, what to expect on those maps, doing your research on your position, and all that stuff. Just, like, I don't know, maybe they just kind of egoed the tournament so far. That could be a possibility as well. Meshi going to find Tensai in the top right, and that's going to be another 3 stars. Actually, lead being turned around here, and especially with a super available first to tempo, that's a free kill in IC, and maybe I just needed to criticize them a little bit harder for them to start waking up.
I think the big problem with, you know, prepping for a tournament like this while also prepping for Worlds is you're double dipping. I mean, Worlds as it is already going to be a huge amount of work, and then prepping for this tournament on top just means more work. So I can understand, why there probably wasn't as much prep done on the side of Crazy Raccoon, because the last thing you want is to burn yourself out before you even get to either of the tournaments. But right now, 7 stars to 5. Crazy Raccoon, like you said, have maybe found their way back into it. And 3R Gaming just taking so much punishment along the way, trying to close that gap. 3 seconds left to dive on in from Mo, but he's burst out immediately. The RT as well. Sorry, it was the RT, not the Mo. Just, either way, it is going to be at least an opportunity for potentially maybe some comeback action, but I mean, in the grand scheme, it's a blip on the radar for Crazy Raccoon, who felt rather underwhelming today.
Yeah, I mean, I just think they needed some slander in order to start waking up and getting their stuff together. So it's better. I mean, Blue Star is even something they're going to win this time around. I believe what is the first time really of this match. So let's see if 3R are able to turn things around. They struggled earlier when they gave away that lead. However, they do have some map control here, so that's a very big positive for them to work with. If they start closing the gap, they can start getting those connections.
And they're going to need to try and bring this one into comfortable territory for them. And look, maybe uncomfortable is what needs to be the catalyst here for Crazy Raccoon. Maybe discomfort will kick them into gear and force them into a situation where they've got to bring out the win. You, mate, playing up through that mid left-hand side, Machine not far behind him. Crazy Raccoon is corralled in towards the back corner. IC forced off for the moment. Super's coming out, though. 2-1 of Crazy Raccoon, and IC and Mamashi, if they find the opening, they might just be able to make a big old play here. But you look at the super that is up for Crazy Raccoon, this is one that could definitely upset. If that gene hook does connect, it's going to pull someone well out of position, and they can then look to punish. But I mean, 3R Gaming all of a sudden looking a lot more hesitant than they were, just not willing to pull that trigger.
And Yumi's already run out of at least half of his herbal tonics, which is really what's been able to keep them alive for so long. He does still have at least one, and that is going to be popped right here, right now. Try to stop them from needing to fall back to reset, but the positioning here is pretty good for CR. They got them quite far away still for now. 10 seconds left. An aggressive play from the Mo gets punished. A few shots from the Barley. It's looking like CR were able to focus up and make it work here as they take game number 3. The set is theirs, and the series is all evened out once at each here.
Yeah, I don't know. I think hubris is a really painful thing to have to face. And the big problem was that you had Mo who could dive on in for 3R, but they just lacked the follow-up. I think the game plan was do the chip with the Barley, you utilize RT as well, and then Mo dives in, mops up, and then from there you can look to capitalize. And you can see Tensai alone got the same number of kills as 3R Gaming did. I think it speaks to how passive that bounty match was.
Yeah, I think that the Mo Otis interaction was one of the major problems here for 3R, because I mean, as soon as that Otis has a super, the Mo just can't dash on him because he's gonna lose. Like, unless it's the Otis is one shot, it's just gonna be over, because that super, that mute is incredibly relevant to that interaction, and it turns it like, 10-1 in favor of that Otis. So that was kind of one of the issues here, where the Mo, I think, was the weakness of 3R, because it didn't really have the space to do much, if anything. Maybe it was enabled to do a bit more in the first and the second game, but in the third, it did absolutely like nothing. It was really miserable, and I think that CR like correctly identified that as their weakness.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Mo needs to play one of two roles, which is either engage, where he's the one that jumps in, the team then follows up, or he needs to play cleanup. You know, the rest of the team does the chip damage. Mo then comes in, finishes things off, and it really, after the first round, it wasn't able to be a thing. Like, Mo just wasn't there in a position where he was either able to mop up the kills that were available or set the team up. So yeah, look, it is one of those things where a couple of minor adjustments, not necessarily in the draft, but even just in positioning, completely nullifies that pick. And if you just slightly readjust lanes, if you readjust positioning, it's a pretty tough pill to swallow. So you got to be careful when bringing Mo into these drafts, because it can be so feast or famine.
I think you're absolutely spot on here. Absolutely spot on. Moving forward, set number 3 is going to be Pinball Dreams for some Brawl Ball action, and we see a Mo first pick already here for 3R. That means that CR are going to have to figure out what the best answer is to that Mo pick. It seems like the maps may have changed actually, and we might be heading towards double swoosh. Fair enough. Would maybe an Otis be an answer here again, as we did see it work brilliantly earlier? So that could be an idea. Maybe go for some other defensive brawlers. I see a lot of them banned out, like no Chester, no Surge, no Gale. All those would have been great here against the Mo.
Yeah. Sandy coming back in, the Apex Sandy, which we've seen a bit of this tournament. It's been a little bit quiet today, but the Gus as well. And there you go. Pinball Dreams is the map combo that we are going to. Obviously, Pinball Dreams, Brawl Ball. I don't know. I mean, look, I do like the Sandy, well, the Apex Sandy. It was usually Max Sandy combo, but again, it does present a little bit of a squishier lineup, which is open for punishment. And yeah, like, I don't know. It's hard to read into, given how sporadic things have been for Crazy Raccoon in terms of their drafting this tournament.
Oh, it very much has been. But look at that double aggression here. Mo Daryl is what the name of the game is going to be here for 3R Gaming Neko. That is a scary combination. That is lots of aggression, and there's only really the possibility for one tank counter. I don't know if this is a different meta that is coming in here. We see the Nita coming in here as well, a staple of Pinball Dreams. But for Crazy Raccoon, I feel like they see some of those aggressive ideas early on, and they just don't react to them, really. Like, Gus and Sandy both really not tank counters at all, and they already had somewhat of an aggressive brawler with Mo. Now with Daryl, they just kind of got like their back open, and they will go for the Cordelius, but it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because when you are in the Shadow Realm, you're blocking, like, you're reducing the match to a 2-on-2, which sometimes is just not in favor of your team.
Well, I mean, you look at it. If you grab the Anita, there's a Mo and Daryl on the field who can jump on the Gus, jump on the Sandy, and I see very few opportunities where they're not just instantly blowing up. If you jump on the Mo, you've still got options. That the Anita and the Daryl are still going to damage. There is no one that you jump on in this matchup that I think drastically changes the trajectory that it's going.
Let's find out how this plays out, but I feel like Crazy Raccoon have a difficult draft here to play out. They do have a little bit of art range in the mid area, so maybe this is what they will be playing around. For now, it's a very passive approach, as I see he's just trying to passively get that super. Doesn't need to wait though, because his food is just coming straight into his mouth. I mean, look at that. They just push him up. IC gets a 2-piece. 3R Gaming with an early goal, and Crazy Raccoon need to figure something out. Luckily, they do have 2 supers to put in something of a fight.
I don't know what Crazy Raccoon thought was going to happen in that situation. Daryl's beefy. He has AoE damage. He has a super that is now just on steroids. He's got it up again. Sandstorm is going to go down. Shitatambo is going to walk his way up. Does have the super, but you completely avoid him. Tucked into the Shadow Realm, but he can just draw Shitatambo out of this engagement. It allows repositioning there from 3R Gaming. He's going to regen up. So as soon as he's taken out of that Shadow Realm, he's going to be up in the thick of things with the super up and available. I question what is going on. Marmashi dives on in. He's found one. He's found two. They follow up with a Daryl roll. The mobility on this roster from 3R Gaming is just so overwhelming. Cordelius was not the right pick.
I don't think the Cordelius is the problem. I think the problem was before that. They just did not have any tank counters in Brawl, one of the game modes where you have the most tanks, and low DPS across the board. I mean, those are just low damage brawlers everywhere except for the Cordelius. And how are they supposed to stop? Mo was 8,000 health, Anita was 8,000 health. On the right side of Daryl was 11k. It's just way too much health.
Yeah, but the Cordelius, the goal is to take someone out of the fight. But who do you take out? We've already seen that it doesn't matter who you take out of the fight because there are still enough answers in play that it doesn't matter. The mobility is insane out of 3R Gaming. Crazy Raccoon backed themselves into a corner with this draft in such a way that you could make the argument to me that this is a bot game, and I would not question it.
I mean, it is a terrible draft from Crazy Raccoon for sure. They do have a bit of a chance at a push here. Managed to corner them back in their goal area. IC gonna get taken low HP. Finally taken care of. Memeshi went for a roll. Bull gets lost though, and therefore it does create a little bit of space, buy some time for 3R. Shitatampo does have a hypercharge that could go a long way if he can find that connection onto any of those 3R players. They're going to be slowed down and sitting ducks. And there you have it, onto IC. Shitatampo going to be farming him down now, and there's not much that IC can do about it. Maybe not quite enough time to find the kill, but it does create a lot of space. 3-on-1 here. IC the only one here to defend, and the goal is opened up. Tensai just goes for it. A bit of an optimistic roll here. Maybe it would have been better to keep that one for IC, because now he's going in without a roll.
Yeah, I mean, but Rafa Bruce is out. He's going to create some space. Marmashi does have the super up as well, driving straight onto Shitatambo, forcing him into an unfortunate position. Luckily, the AoE is there, and Shitatambo will work his way up towards the ball. Marmashi does get the kill. Leaves Tensai alone in mid, and we see IC is back in play, has the super up and available. The Wombo combo is just impossible for Crazy Raccoon to deal with because they just don't have the HP pools as a whole to answer the call. Hypercharge available for Moya, who's taking damage. He's going to pop the Sandstorm, but IC's there, dives on into the mid, finds one, looking for more, forcing them all out. That's exactly what you need out of the Dow, is just make some noise, create some distraction, send chip damage in through mid, and Marmashi has done just that. The shot towards the goal is well off the mark from Shitatampo. IC's going to pick the ball up, pass it up to the right-hand side. Marmashi does have the super up and available, can look to dive on through. Big damage coming out, and that's exactly what you're looking for. Marmashi gets ball control, trying to just create some space, has the super to use, passes it to himself, but it's off the mark. And Crazy Raccoon, I don't know how they've found themselves this lifeline, but they have.
It's a ridiculous game for them to pick up. I mean, again, I think the draft is so much better on the 3R side, and yet they still managed to make it work. Not comfortably so, though. Really not. I mean, this could have been ended in this game already. 3R Gaming, I think, still in a good position. However, Crazy Raccoon, I mean, it's incredible that they're able to make things work despite such adversity.
Yeah, I see it a bit of trouble, though. The rest of his team is gone. He's taking the Shadow Realm, so Tensai is just going to be able to walk this one home. So, I mean, it's not, like you said, comfortable by any stretch of the imagination, but somehow they're making it work.
Unbelievable stuff from Crazy Raccoon, somehow recovering from this very, very difficult draft to pull off. Memeshi going a bit over aggressive, will get shut down. It's only IC left alive. If he gets thrown into the Shadow Realm, it's over. Yeah. The tempo finds the connection. There's no stopping power here, and Tensai is able to slot it in. Crazy Raccoon somehow are going to be able to pick up that set, and that's going to be a second in their favor.
Look, Crazy Raccoons, if nothing else, the king of the mid-set adjustment. What they did was they spread. They didn't get all clumped up. They didn't want to, get caught out by all this wombo combo. On top of that, they were sending damage down range early, trying to catch that early chip, which was enough to dissuade 3R Gaming. Because they'd taken so much damage already, they couldn't then commit to the fight. So, look, yeah, Crazy Raccoon played that exactly the way they needed to, given how poor the draft was, I think, as a whole. It proved it wasn't necessarily as weak as maybe we anticipated, Teddy, but on paper, if 3R Gaming had played the game the way they wanted to, that should have been an easy sweep from them.
I don't think the draft was good. I just think that they played like perfectly, and the problem with that is that, like, yes, they have the talent and the mechanics and the brains to do that and play perfectly and win those unwinnable drafts. However, like, you might as well just have good drafts. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like such an easier process. But they like the difficult path, I guess. And this is the thing, they are very stubborn, and all they can see is diffing their opposition, not with draft, but just with raw mechanical skill. And they do it again there. They do it again. First pick gonna be heading their way here for our map number 4. But oh my, this is scary because CR are back in the driver's seat. They have won 2 sets in a row now as well, so starting to really build up some momentum. As you mentioned, it's not because they have the better drafts, it's because they managed to somehow adapt and then have some crazy plays that give them those games and somehow lock in those sets.
I mean, maybe it is that, Crazy Raccoon are going back towards more approaching the game the way they want to, rather than reactively to what their opponents are doing. They will pick up the Gale first. Obviously, having that first pick allows them to get him in play for themselves. Mo banned out by 3R Gaming. Sandy banned out, understandably, given how much it allowed them to control the map and just made it that much more difficult for the Mo Daryl combo to lock things down. Draco banned out. I'm not too upset about that, given he's been a bit hit and miss.
I don't mind what I see so far. Surge is sometimes a little bit of a slow start, but I think that the bushes here does help him out, and it's a bit easier than last stop where we did see Surge struggle a bit earlier today. Because I think you just have a bit more cover to work with and close the gap. You can also kind of rotate from left to right, try to punish anyone that goes over aggressive. So I think it's a good map for it. Heal, of course, is like a defense staple of Brawl Stars. It has been for a while now, but the hypercharge is really what has made it incredibly strong. Very versatile, just perfect for what you want as a first pick. And it has that tank awareness, which is one of my main criticisms so far of Crazy Raccoon's draft. It seems like they're listening to me because they're actually going to go for a second tank counter to make sure that any tanky ideas as a last pick are not going to be explored here by 3R. And to also, of course, help shut down the already picked tank, which is Buster.
I rounded out with the Tara, so a lot of counterplay kites in this draft from Crazy Raccoon. They've got a lot to sort of just dissuade 3R Gaming from pushing into them. Ems, Tara is going to be great at that. I mean, all of the abilities there, the supers rather stacked there together from Crazy Raccoon are just going to make it very hard to close that gap and get up in the face of Crazy Raccoon. Squeak comes out yet again. It seems that day 2 is Squeak's day here in the Apex Tour, Teddy.
Yeah, I did get buffed up recently, so I think it makes sense that we're seeing some more play from it. I think this traditionally used to be a decent Squeak map as well, because you could just reveal your enemy's position very nicely, lock down some narrow choke areas. So I kind of like it. I don't know how well it's going to do in the current meta. I think a lot of the threats are gone. And as I talked about Squeak a few matches ago, it's like a late pick, if not last pick nowadays, because it just gets countered too hard by pretty much everything that is aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, Crazy Raccoon's draft from the get-go is sort of geared towards punishing misplays, missteps, and I think yeah, it has the potential to really upset this draft out of 3R Gaming. You've got Surge and Buster who can be punished just because they're not quite as mobile. Surge, yeah, a little bit more. Siddhampo going to be jumped on, finished off by Yume. Moya trying to work that right-hand side as the Gale get that super up, but he's taking big damage. Mimeshi taking some punishment, but does connect in such a meaningful way that can get the finisher there. It allows aggressive positioning for 3R Gaming here. Have the gem lead, but only tentatively. And Tensai walks up, finishes off the Buster, only to fall himself. Mimeshi wants to claim those gems for himself. He's going to get decent punishment out to Shiddhampo, but they won't be able to claim the gems.
Yeah, Shiddhampo is pretty much stuck there, though, because of the slope, but no one's capitalizing. Maybe IC was unaware, I'm not sure. Pull from Tensai is going to connect. Yume jumps away, but Moya is ready to greet him upon landing. Nicely done here by Crazy Raccoon. They've managed to close that gem gap that was slowly building up here for 3R. And Moya has so much mid control, he can even go pick up gems that are on the enemy side of the map because Mimeshi is distracted. And for now, things are starting to look good for Crazy Raccoon, although they are starting to lose some of that mid control.
I mean, 3R Gaming started the tournament so well, and it feels like today they've been, especially, well, more specifically this series, they have been their own worst enemy. They've had the right intentions, they've had the right ideas. I mean, arguably on more than one occasion, they've had the one-up on Crazy Raccoon, but here in the grand finals, they've let it slip. Yume just absolutely caught out, exposed and punished. Tampa going to do the same with IC. Meshi holding all his team's gems right now, trying to make something happen. Yume jumping up to try and provide that cover. They will finish off Tensai, and they will get themselves a nice gem, so they take that lead back to Tampa if they can isolate. Big super coming out from Shiddhampo allows the drop onto Mimeshi, but Yume will pick up the gems. Tensai closing their gap though. Suddenly Yume's in trouble. IC needs to get over there. Sakura needs to back up his teammate as the 10th gem claimed by Crazy Raccoon. That countdown will start. They need to reset the timer if possible. But unfortunately, yeah, the super hyper charge combo from Moya is going to be a huge punishing factor. Tensai, 2 seconds left. There's not much they can do. Crazy Raccoon have found whatever they needed to left in the tank, Teddy, and they're looking to ice it up here in the grand finals.
Beautifully done by Crazy Raccoon. This is their chance of closing things out. And Billy, you're never going to guess it. What do you think the scoreline was in Season 1 when CR lost to 3R and then won in the lower bracket finals and then made it back to the grand finals to win? What was the score? Tell me.
It was 3-2, wasn't it? So it was.
No, it wasn't 3-1.
So it was 3-2. Yeah, it's 3-2 in the upper bracket finals. And 3-1. Okay, yeah. Look, if I'm 3R Gaming, I'm sweating profusely. I am praying to whatever deity it is that I believe in, and asking for more than what I am currently getting, because this is dangerously close to history repeating itself, and it would mean that Crazy Raccoon find themselves a 2-time APAC Tour champions. Big damage. Mimeshi falls. Mimeshi out means that there's less coverage. Your two frontliners are a bit beefy, but they don't have the output that they're looking for. Yume has to aggressively, defensively dash away the pull onto both of them. And Crazy Raccoon, the boot is on the neck, Teddy, and they're looking to close the windpipe. 7 gems to none. 3R Gaming had a solid dash, but unfortunately it seems that they are about to finish it.
It's a messy, scrappy fight, and yet Crazy Raccoon still steadily in the lead. Aggressive plays from Tensai, so 1-for-1 trade. Moya is there with a flank as well, able to steal away 2 more gems down in the mid. All they need is 1 more for the countdown to be initiated. And 3R Gaming, the only answer has to be death on either that Gale or the M's, but the gem has not been picked up just yet. It's going to be Tensai that commits for it. Not risking any other gems from being dropped down in that unfortunate position. 12 seconds left. Crazy Raccoon need to hold on to that countdown. Anyone going down will interrupt it, but they need to close the gap. 5 seconds left. Can they get in range? Can they get the opportunity to do it? 1 second, it's over. Crazy Raccoon are through, and they are going to be your Season 3 LPL Pro Division champions with yet another stellar performance here in the grand finals, somehow mirroring like the exact results of Season 1.
Yeah, I don't know how they've done it not once but twice and claimed themselves the 2-time title for the LPL APAC Tour, Teddy. And I am going to be honest, I do not know how 3R Gaming have fumbled that grand final, because they looked like the more dominant team going into it. And you look back at the run that was had, Crazy Raccoon, how have they done it again? Losing the upper bracket finals 3-2 to 3R Gaming, winning the lower bracket finals, getting back to the grand finals, and then doing the exact same way, Teddy. Look, Crazy Raccoon might have their shortcomings, but at the end of the day, they're the best team in the region for a reason.
Absolutely. So, I mean, huge congratulations to them. What a day of matches here, and what a way to end the series here as well. I think overall, you know, it kind of shows like how CR needs to work on their draft, especially like try to prevent some of the cheese, looking at Snake Prairie in particular. And once that's ironed out, I mean, they might just be one of the top candidates for Worlds, but they gotta make sure that all those little issues are ironed out by the time, you know, it goes down on the big stage.
Yeah, I mean, you've already qualified for Worlds. Maybe make the job a little bit easier for yourself, Teddy, but thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you here for all 3 stages of the APAC Tour, and I look forward to seeing you next year and potentially seeing you more in Brawl Stars, whether it is APAC. Who knows how things are going to play out. But for us here at LPL, we thank you so much for following along with us. Congratulations once again to Crazy Raccoon. And for this year, we're done. We're dusted. We'll see you guys next year for more APAC Tour Pro Division. Have a good one. Stay safe, and we'll see you next year.